Solutions Center, tailored to make a legal difference to our clients. We have the necessary diversity to meet their needs.
Karikon Kima and Company Advocates, translating visions into reality. For more information, visit our website www.karikon.
Faster, fresher, and better than before. We've given our app a makeover. The new Vision Digital Experience is now the Vision Digital Experience. The future of media is here and it's looking bright. Check out the Vision Digital Experience app to have a feel of the fresh look, faster speed and exciting new TV and radio channels and so much more. Download the app on App Store or Google Play Store now. Vision Digital Experience, the future of media.
We license, we regulate and supervise all schemes in this country that save members' funds for retirement. We also regulate and supervise the service providers that play in this space to provide the professional expertise. All schemes in this market are first registered with us in order to play in the space. That is one entry point, and subsequently they meet all the regulatory requirements for licensing. They need to have a trust deed which is reviewed by us to ensure that it provides the protection to members, not to the sponsor or the employer, and to ensure that all funds shall be invested well and all the necessary details in terms of members' data and how they will join and exit are taken care of. The second point is to ensure that all service providers that play in the space are also registered and licensed. They meet the minimum requirements in order to support the investment of those funds. When a scheme is established, the trustees are also licensed by us to ensure that they're fit and proper in order to serve you as members. And their roles are quite enormous. They have a huge mandate. They have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that they appoint the service providers I mentioned of, and to ensure that they execute their work and also submit all the documentation as provided for or as required by the regulator.
UNICAF University, the leading Pan-African institution, is now in Uganda offering $1 million worth of scholarships. Apply now to receive a scholarship for an accredited bachelor degree. Master new skills and gain expert knowledge from top academics. UNICAF University offers flexible programs so you can study anytime, anywhere. Join the new education era today. Call 077 197 6750. Visit our campus at Plot 53B, Natinda 2 Road, Naguru, Kampala.
These days, our homes are no longer just the places we live. It's where we attend meetings, go to class, keep each other safe, and entertain ourselves. To do this smoothly, you need a reliable internet connection. Buy the MTN WakaNet router, which connects up to 32 devices and gets a free 40 GB data bundle at only 149,000 shillings. Or buy the MTN WakaNet MiFi at only 75,000 shillings and enjoy a free 15 GB bundle to stream, study, work, and play on the go. Visit any MTN service center to buy the MTN WakaNet router or MiFi and enjoy the internet that does amazing things.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution, or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone, or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312-206-400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We are the DPF. We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
And Company Advocates.
I am a legal practitioner, the chief executive partner of Kalikumtima and Company Advocates. It is a one-stop solutions center tailored to make a legal difference to our clients. We have the necessary diversity to meet their needs.
Kalikumtima and Company Advocates, translating visions into reality. For more information, visit our website www.kalikumtima.com.
Faster, fresher, and better than before. We've given our app a makeover. The new Vision Digital Experience is now the Vision Digital Experience. The future of media is here and it's looking bright. Check out the Vision Digital Experience app to have a feel of the fresh look, faster speed and exciting new TV and radio channels and so much more. Download the app on App Store or Google Play Store now. Vision Digital Experience, the future of media.
These days, our homes are no longer just the places we live. It's where we attend meetings, go to class, keep each other safe, and entertain ourselves. To do this smoothly, you need a reliable internet connection. Buy the MTN WakaNet router, which connects up to 32 devices and gets a free 40 GB data bundle at only 149,000 shillings. Or buy the MTN WakaNet MiFi at only 75,000 shillings and enjoy a free 15 GB bundle to stream, study, work, and play on the go. Visit any MTN service center to buy the MTN WakaNet router or MiFi and enjoy the internet that does amazing things.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution, or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone, or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312-206-400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
And Company Advocates.
I am a legal practitioner, the chief executive partner of Kalikumtima and Company Advocates. It is a one-stop solutions center tailored to make a legal difference to our clients. We have the necessary diversity to meet their needs.
Kalikumtima and Company Advocates, translating visions into reality. For more information, visit our website www.
Faster, fresher, and better than before. We've given our app a makeover. The new Vision Digital Experience is now the Vision Digital Experience. The future of media is here and it's looking bright. Check out the Vision Digital Experience app to have a feel of the fresh look, faster speed and exciting new TV and radio channels and so much more. Download the app on App Store or Google Play Store now. Vision Digital Experience, the future of media.
Moments in time when things just don't go according to your plans. Get empowered to go for what's meant for you. Get empowered to do more for yourself with Post app. Pay bills, make school fees payments, buy airtime, transfer funds, check your account balance, request for account statements, initiate cardless withdrawals, and lots more. Post app is available for download on Google Play and App Store. Post Bank, empowering you. Post Bank is regulated by the Bank of Uganda. Customer deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda.
Hello, darling.
Hi, Granny.
What did you do this weekend?
Well, on Friday, I went on a science trip with my classmates to Windy to see the gorillas.
Then we watched the cup final in London. On Saturday, my friends and I met up to hunt some dragons again. Also, I taught the vacuum cleaner and the TV this new dance everyone's doing. They're really getting into it. And on Sunday, I went to bed watching the world from space. And you? Yes, seriously, Granny.
With Airtel 5G's lightning fast speeds and seamless connectivity, you won't believe what's next.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
As the sun rises across Uganda, a new dawn in luxury living awakens. Solana Lifestyle and Residences is Uganda's newest, most prestigious and award-winning lifestyle destination, an address for those who dream differently. At Solana, you're close enough to the hustle of the city, but far enough to come home to a sanctuary of smart living. Join a community of like-minded individuals where everything is taken care of and safety and security comes standard, where each community has a clubhouse, play area, pool, and other incredible features. Let an oasis of calm greet you at the end of each day with manicured gardens, pathways, parks, bicycle tracks, and so much more. Whether you're upscaling or settling down, buying a first home or investing,
Solana has it all.
Uganda is now open to the world.
And Company Advocates.
I am a legal practitioner, the chief executive partner of Kalikumtima and Company Advocates. It is a one-stop solutions center tailored to make a legal difference to our clients. We have the necessary diversity to meet their needs.
Kalikumtima and Company Advocates, translating visions into reality. For more information, visit our website www.
Faster, fresher, and better than before. We've given our app a makeover. The new Vision Digital Experience is now the Vision Digital Experience. The future of media is here and it's looking bright. Check out the Vision Digital Experience app to have a feel of the fresh look, faster speed and exciting new TV and radio channels and so much more. Download the app on App Store or Google Play Store now. Vision Digital Experience, the future of media.
ennyanja emira agimanyidde olwawo n'omukka gusensebula afumbira ku nku wewunya ettagali ng'ono kyerine gy'ayitamu weefune ka Starbex gas leero ng'owe Kampala ogula Starbex gas tumukutuusako ku bwereere bw'oba tolina ssente mu buliwo osobola okusasula ng'okozesa MTN Momo merchant code 315794 oba Airtel 1161 nooti 3 nooti 7 nooti 9743592 okumanya ekisingako awo kuba ku nooti 7 nooti 6 nooti 18859 oba nooti 7 nooti 6 nooti 1917 nooti 393 nooti 188 nooti Starbex gas kagas keko.
Kalikumtima and Company Advocates.
I am a legal practitioner, the chief executive partner of Kalikumtima and Company Advocates. It is a one-stop solutions center.
Check. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everyone in the room. I hope you are energized. I hope you are excited. Those that are outside, please come in. Those that are online, we welcome you. We'll be starting in exactly 2 minutes, so please be seated. My name is Brian Kambaho. I'm an associate partner with Acadia Advocates, and I'm privileged to be your MC today. Yesterday we had Dr. Mitch. I am far from comparison, but I am learning in the trade, and I hope you'll enjoy your day. So once again, please remember, the theme is redefining legal practice in the age of disruption. So we're disrupting things. Yesterday we had the industry titans sharing their perspectives. We had government agencies dealing with disruptions. We had trade in the region, the disruption in that area. We had employment disruptions. We had aviation disruptions, taxation disruptions. And then today is day 2, and we continue to have a lot of exciting things. But before we go so far, I would like to invite Mr. President to come and kick us off. He has very wonderful remarks to share with us, and then he will invite our keynote speaker, and we'll dig right in. So please do pay attention. It will be an exciting day today. Networking. During the breaks, please do network. Do not leave this place without knowing a new face, a new friend, a new contact. Even those online, I think there's a networking option. So set up those meetings online and enjoy the Brella platform. Mr. President. A round of applause for the President.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning to everyone. I don't feel the energy. I hope you had breakfast. Good morning, everyone. I don't want to make that introduction by Dr. Mitch yesterday. Yeah? But I hope that you had a restful night. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to day 2 of the conference. And I'm sure that we have exciting sessions for you today, and I'm sure that you'll be able to learn. First, I want to thank you, members of the Uganda Law Society, for the support that you have given the Law Society. We are grateful. I can tell you that the numbers, we were overwhelmed yesterday. And I want to specifically apologize on behalf of the Uganda Law Society for the hiccups on the technology side. We are trying to do the best we can to ensure that everyone that registered online can be able to get into the system. But that system is helpful for Uganda Law Society because one of the things that system is going to be able to do is to give us statistics. Who is attending, which session are you attending, and we'll be able to tell what sort of subjects interest you. So that is going to give us some sort of scientific evaluation of our conference. That is the way to go. We apologize for the mishaps, but we will ensure that everyone gets into the system. And we have shared a few messages on social media to help you get into the system if you still have challenges. This morning, we have a very good session, and I would like to take the honor to introduce Dr. Diora Ziemva, who I'm going to ask to come to the front before I introduce her. Please, let's welcome her. Is that the Ugandan welcome? Let's welcome her. All right, so let me introduce her. Dr. Ziora is a partner at Denton's LLP in New York. Her practice focuses on investor state arbitration, international commercial arbitration, and public international law. She's dual qualified in Uzbekistan and New York, and she has about 14 years of experience successfully representing sovereign states and corporate clients in over 30 significant international arbitration proceedings. Most significantly, she has successfully represented the Republic of Uganda in a $435 million oil and gas arbitration. I think at some point I have to stop and tell you you can clap at this point, yeah? Diora has been recognized as a rising star by Law 360, as a global leader in arbitration by Who is Who Legal, and as one of American Bar Association's On the Rise. She's on the Rise Top 40 Young Lawyers. She's the first female from the Republic of Uzbekistan to graduate from the Harvard Law School. You can clap at this point also. In addition, she's a member of the International Commercial Court Commission on Arbitration and co-chairs the Investment Law Committee of the International Law Association, where she also sits on the board of directors. She's a counsel on foreign relations, a certified mediator, she's an arbitrator, and also serves as an adjunct professor of law at Cornell Law School and at Fordham University School of Law, where she teaches investor state arbitration. You can also clap. So it is my honor to introduce Dr. Ziora to come and speak to us. They would have found no better person. Even as we discuss our local issues, it's important for us to see where the world is. Doctor, please come.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. As been introduced, my name is Diora Ziyaeva. I'm a partner at Denton's LLP New York. It is great to be here in beautiful Uganda, especially on the occasion of the annual law conference, as this year's topic, redefining legal practice in the age of disruption, is particularly timely. I'm very grateful to the organizers, particularly the Uganda Law Society, as well as to my wonderful colleague, Isaac Chagaba, for inviting me to speak at such an important event in the Pearl of Africa. It is a true honor to be here before you. I have been asked to speak today about resilience in the face of disruption in the legal profession. This is incredibly important topic. As everyone here knows, the legal industry has gone through a number of challenging events in the recent years and is certainly poised to go through more. Despite some of these difficulties, many in the industry have actually thrived and will continue to do so. So what I will focus on today is sharing with you strategies and best practices that I believe are important as we embrace change. I am not going to discuss what necessarily the future holds, as unfortunately there is no way to predict every single possible disruption. But what I will be referring to is how to separate resilient firms from non-resilient firms. There are several themes that can help us guide in becoming more resilient in the face of disrupting forces that are constantly impacting legal industry. So to begin, if we could go to the next slide. It is important to understand exactly what I mean by disruption. Disruption here refers to factors preventing legal profession from continuing as usual or as expected. These are the events that cause large-scale changes on the industry-wide level. How about resilience? Resilience can be defined as the ability to bounce back or recover from the difficulty or change. I will refer to resilience as it relates to a firm's or practitioner's ability to adapt to changing conditions, whether those conditions be technology-related or something else. To guide today's discussion, let's consider, and please indulge me, two hypothetical law firms, okay? For simplicity's sake, I will refer to these as firms, though the principles apply whether you're in the firm, in-house counsel, officer, government officer, or any other group of lawyers. If we could go to the next slide. So there are two firms that we have. There's a Tradition Advocates. This firm, as the name implies, is a firm priding itself on its long tradition of success. This firm is known for consistency. It has thrived for many years because it has a well-detailed and implemented strategy for handling any disruptions. Innovation Advocates, by contrast, is known for being on the cutting edge, whether in terms of its practice area, technology, or talent retention. It has thrived in recent years because it practices flexibility that allows it to adjust with a changing industry. Each of these firms has clearly demonstrated in our hypothetical resilience in the face of disruption. However, each has also showcased completely different strategies in doing so. So now that we've covered the relevant parties in our hypothetical here, which I will refer to throughout my speech, I will walk through a few examples of disruptions to the industry and highlight how our two firms might handle those disruptions. I urge you to consider, for each example, which firm's response most closely matches yours. Are you currently practicing resilience? And if not, perhaps now is the time to start. If we could go to the next slide. So one of the largest disruptions the legal industry has faced over the past decade is the significant advancement of technology. It was not that long ago that the lawyer's work was done entirely in person. Research was conducted in physical books, and drafting was done by hand. Obviously, this is no longer the case. The mass adoption of internet usage and technologies has unquestionably changed the industry permanently. The latest advances threatening to change the industry, and the one that should be on all of our minds, is artificial intelligence. So how should our firms address AI in the workplace? The benefits of artificial intelligence are clear. AI offers the potential to automate the legal research and document review process by locating, reviewing, and summarizing information at a pace that humans simply cannot. Imagine how much more efficient your firm could be for the clients if you could drastically reduce the amount of time you spend reviewing irrelevant cases or materials. AI models can also be programmed to generate form legal documents based on facts that you input. Again, this allows lawyers to focus on actually lawyering as opposed to compiling standard forms. The American Bar Association described AI as giving lawyers superpowers if utilized correctly. And the research backs up that claim. A recent study that was conducted by the National Legal Research Group found that artificial intelligence tools allowed legal researchers to complete research projects 24% faster than by using traditional methods. The researchers predicted that broad use of artificial intelligence could save the average attorney between 132 to 210 hours per year, time that could be spent on more substantive tasks. I encourage you all to think what you could do with an extra 210 hours per year. I'm sure we could all use it. The danger of artificial intelligence are clear as well. AI programs are not perfect, at least not yet. To demonstrate, let's look at an AI product that has been in the news often lately. It's called ChatGPT, which is basically an artificial intelligence-powered language model. Think of it as an incredibly sophisticated Google search, where the model can review past information and draft response as instructed by the users. So for example, you can tell ChatGPT, write me a poem about lawyers in Uganda, and it will review information about lawyers, poems, and Uganda, and then do so. The potential of a model like ChatGPT is nearly limitless. Imagine a future in which you can tell an artificial intelligence model, let's draft an argument supporting the proposition that damages should be awarded where someone breaches a contract. And it reviews all the relevant case law and drafts the arguments. And this is where we are actually heading as an industry. But we're not quite there yet. Let's take a look at a few examples from ChatGPT. Ask it to do something simple, and the results are quick and accurate. Ask it, for example, for a haiku about Uganda, and haiku is a Japanese poem of 17 syllables consisting of first and third lines of 5. So for instance, you can ask it for a haiku about Uganda, and you can get something like, Pearl of Africa, Uganda's lush beauty blooms, nature's symphony. And for one about the lawyers, we get something like this. Words wielded as swords. Lawyers navigate the law. Justice is their compass. And that makes sense intuitively. What ChatGPT does is by analyzing thousands of those haikus, the model understands what it takes to write one. Likewise, reviewing thousands of documents about Uganda or lawyers gives the model enough information to mention the generalities of haiku format. It does not require human judgment for ChatGPT to determine that haiku has 17 syllables, or that Uganda is often called the Pearl of Africa, and thus the program does well with this task. But what happens when the assignment calls for just slightly more independent judgment? More specifically, what if instead of drafting that poem haiku, you asked ChatGPT to draft legal argument? We get completely different outcome. When a response requires a case for specific issue, ChatGPT will often simply make one up. The model will create fake case names and citations, fake parties, and even write entire judicial opinions that do not actually exist. Simply put, when you tell ChatGPT to provide a case standing for a certain proposition, it often does so whether the case is real or not. And why is this? At least for now, as the system is developing, ChatGPT is simply a language model. Its purpose is to study millions of documents and then mimic a human response when prompted. So ChatGPT is not giving a real answer. It is giving what a real answer would look like. For haikus, poems, and other simple matters, this makes no difference. When a response must be supported by citations to specific sources, the difference becomes dangerously significant. Several attorneys in the United States have already been sanctioned by courts for submitting legal briefs relying on cases that were determined to have been created by ChatGPT. Obviously, you do not want to tell the client that they lost the case because you relied on a computer model for your arguments. Keeping these limitations in mind, how are our two firms handling AI? So, Tradition Advocates, this firm is open to the use of AI products, but cautious in their application. The firm uses only widely accepted programs that have been thoroughly tested. The firm is able to take advantage of some of the benefits of AI without opening itself to significant risks. But ultimately, this is a perfectly reasonable approach. By contrast, Innovation Advocates is quicker to adapt to new AI products. As a result, this firm will enjoy more of the benefits of the product and gain an edge on competitors. This firm, however, recognizes the risk of doing so and ensures that protections are put into place to prevent the risks of AI programs. Again, this is a perfectly reasonable approach and one that is adopted by many firms today. So what are the real firms worldwide say about those issues? Let's take a look at the quote by one of the firms that reflects actually many other firms concerning this issue. A lawyer's work is highly specialized and required multiple years of training and accumulated experience to deliver results and client satisfaction. There is no doubt that lawyers will have to work with AI if they want to remain competitive, but this use must be done in a responsible manner and in observance of ethical obligations. ChatGPT may be used with caution as a tool to supplement legal work, but it cannot, at least for now, replace expertise, experience, and judgments of lawyers. So what would a less resilient firm do? There are two ways here in which a firm could misstep. First, there will be, of course, the firms out there that are too hesitant to utilize technology at all. These firms will fall behind in the marketplace. Clients will not necessarily abide by a firm being significantly less efficient than its competitors, and that's just the reality of client work. Second, there will be firms that adopt AI programs without the adequate protections that innovation advocates used. And these firms will eventually make a mistake. Clients will not be forgiving of firms that are seen as lazily relying on AI-generated content without confirming it is accurate. So let's take a look at the second example. This time, instead of client work, we will focus on talent retention. AI is certainly not the only advancement that is changing the legal industry today. Many firms nowadays deal with talent retention issues following the pandemic. COVID-19 work-from-home orders forced firms to quickly become more focused on remote work, and many did so. That raises an important question. What do you do now that employers can work in person again? And at the end of the day, keeping employees happy in 2023 requires a different approach than it did even a few years ago. So what approaches have we seen to this issue? And what would our two law firms do? So Tradition Advocates takes the position that in-office work provides benefit to the firm, and more benefit than what the remote work could do. If implemented correctly, this policy is entirely reasonable. How does the firm manage to keep the associates happy? For example, by ensuring that in-office experience actually is beneficial. And firms have tried a number of different approaches to make in-office days more appealing to associates. Some firms offer tangible benefits, for example, free meals on certain days of the week. Other firms allow relaxed dress code in an attempt to make in-office days less formal as compared to remote days, allowing, for instance, casual attire in the office. More substantively, firms successful at getting associates, the Generation Z, to return to the office ensure that the office experience differs from the remote days. For example, by not resorting to Zoom calls for meetings when team members are in the office. Because if employees are going to be required to be in the office, teams should behave as if everyone is in the office. Simply put, what is the point of being in person if you not take advantage of it? However, these are not the only successful strategies a firm could take. Innovation Advocates is the firm that fully embraced the remote work experience. For example, by not requiring associates to be in the office unless absolutely necessary. As with the remote traditional approach, if implemented correctly, this policy is entirely reasonable as well. So some of the firms around the world implemented this strategy with work from anywhere policies. Outside of the law firm context, other employers did the same. For example, PricewaterhouseCoopers allowed its entire consulting workforce, nearly 40,000 employees, to work remotely. Tech companies like Google, likewise, greatly expanded access to remote work arrangements. And in many cases, the specific work from home policy enacted by a firm can depend on the practice area. For example, associates serving tech company accounts might be more likely to work from home, while those servicing financial institutions might be more likely to work in the office. For these flexible firms, the important question becomes, how do you ensure that employees get the same training and mentoring without being in person? Just because employees are working from home does not mean that they should feel isolated. Firms that implement affirmative remote training policies can alleviate that risk. I urge you to discuss these issues with your associates and ensure that you are competitive in the market in regard to talent retention, because it will eventually affect client care if you're not. Happy lawyers perform more effectively than those who are unhappy. And this choice does not have to be rigid. Firms can create combination of the two approaches that I just discussed. And why is it all important? Because clients appreciate cohesion and consistency among its lawyers' team. At the end of the day, when lawyers leave, it costs the firm and clients more money to train new lawyers. To conclude, there are a number of factors that make a resilient firm, the most important of which is simply to embrace the change, whether good or bad. Successful firms position themselves in a manner to take advantage of potentially advantageous changes, such as technological advances, while minimizing the effects of potentially disadvantaged changes. And above all else, this takes a high degree of prior planning and clear communication throughout the organizational structure. Firms, and that's what statistics shows, that takes the steps on the front end are able to benefit at the back end. I encourage you all to think of how your firm or organization can practice resilience in the face of disruption. Specifically, I urge you to think about the changes you want to make to your practice in light of my examples. Resilience starts at the top. Resilient firms create resilient employees who then continue the cycle. There is no time like the present to begin planning for future disruptions. And one takeaway from our law firm examples is that the key is in balance. Learning from industry, comparing and contrasting the approaches in order to find the most nuanced, authentic, and your firm-specific approach. This, in my view, is the key to true resilience and commitment to excellence. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today with you on this important topic.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause for Dr. Diora. Now, I know there are many curious people in the audience, so wanted to give an opportunity if you have a question or a comment, or you'd like to share an example of how you've interfaced with disruption in your firm. Anyone? Yes, please. Resilience, how are you doing it? Oh yeah, there's a hand here. Is there a portable microphone? Right here at the front.
Thank you very much. Joyce Nalunga Mumaso, Member Leadership Code Tribunal. Thank you so much for a very insightful presentation. I was wondering whether you can advise us on one of the best AI products for a small law firm so that we are able to think about it and see how to strategize over it. One that probably has less risks, but is good to go when you're starting to embrace AI. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think actually I get this question quite a lot. If you'd like, I can exchange the cards and send you specific names of the programs that actually work. But what we're seeing nowadays is that there's been a number of developments and the change is happening super quickly because, for example, ChatGPT appeared like at the end of last year, and in 8 months it became completely, like it took over the industry and in the legal practice completely. So what we've seen is what has been done externally, right, by different companies that generate different programs that are helpful to, let's say, small and medium-sized firms. We also see bigger firms developing their own in-house platforms. So I'm actually happy to send you a couple of names of the companies that have gotten pretty good reviews, and also articles just kind of summarizing what is happening. But that being said, maybe in 2 months there will be another program that is just so much more advanced. So it's really kind of important to keep it up. One of the things my colleagues do, like they almost like put a Google alert, so whenever there is a new program or like artificial intelligence advancement, you actually learn about this. I would say with whatever program it is, give it a little time if it comes out, because a lot of times it's really just kind of a trial and error, since we're all leaving this now. But I'm happy to exchange information and give you just more specific names so that you can check them out. Of course. Any other questions, comments? Please.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Abdallah Sechibembe from...
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
My name is Abdallah Sechibembe from the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. My question is in regards to data protection and privacy. Now, we have interacted with ChatGPT. This is a free tool, and we are feeding it with a lot of information about our work. How do we address the issue of data privacy and protection vis-a-vis feeding? We don't know who is behind these tools. And then now, what will be the repercussions behind this? Will this information be used or be sold somewhere? Is someone dealing with it, or maybe, building on it to sell it to someone? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is really an excellent question. So I've looked at this myself because I was, as you, curious to know where is this information going? How are we dealing with this? So I think the answer is that different governments all over the world are looking into this question, and there are certain governments that actually address this question by creating specialized agency that that becomes almost like a repository of the information that is put into ChatGPT. So there's a certain regulatory framework that has, and there are certain laws that are being prepared. For example, in Europe, in the UK, and in Canada, we've seen quite a bit of development on that end. In the US, it's still kind of a wild, wild west. There hasn't been any kind of one way of addressing this. I think what we will see on a more macro level is there will be some countries that will approach it, okay, we want to have a regulatory framework to, for lack of a better word, make sure that we regulate ChatGPT or information that goes in and out, right? And there will be some that will say, okay, well, why don't we just let the, this AI self-develop? I'm not sure exactly what will be the outcome of either approach. I urge you to think about it and to consider what will work best. Given that it's very new, right? I mean, it's only been 8 or 9 months. This is something that is still work in progress. So I think a lot of brains are looking into it and trying to assess what would make most sense in terms of the regulatory framework. But it's certainly an important question, what do you do with all this information? Because even if you compared, and I did this, I remember in February when I first started to actively use ChatGPT, and I've been asking certain questions to it, throughout the last months, and I see that the answers are changing. The answers are becoming more and more complete. They integrate the information that is acquired from the answers that the users provide. A lot of it is still not very accurate. You definitely need to go through, everything that the information you receive. But what is definitely the case is that it's developing. It's not stagnant. It's developing, and it's developing at a pace that the question is, can we, how can we actually monitor it? How can we regulate it? And these are the questions that are worth looking into and follow what other countries are doing as they're in the progress of looking into this issue. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Mine is more of a comment. I just want to share my experience as asked about the disruptions. I do arbitration, most especially construction law disputes. We've done some virtual hearings with the London Court of International Arbitration. So there's this organization called IDRC, International Dispute Resolution, that was established around 2000 when COVID hit us globally. So it has this virtual platform where clients, anybody can be a client, even a law firm can be a client for purposes of managing virtual dispute resolution or hearings. They have these guidelines, terms and conditions that apply. Of course, when you go to the governing law, the laws of the English laws are the ones that are applicable. Perhaps we can borrow from the strength of the laws as we are improving our legislation towards protection. But the guidelines and the experience is amazing. How the documents are organized, the hearings are seamless. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And indeed, there's been a number of institutions, including LCIA and the IDRC and many institutions all over the world that are trying to address this change and integrate it in revising the rules. I think the ChatGPT element, the artificial intelligence element, has not really been integrated into the rules yet since it's so new. But I know that it is work in progress for sure, because everyone is looking into it, right? So I think one of the things that I find really helpful is comparing and contrasting different approaches of institutions, because you can really learn what works better or what's just historically has proven to work. And I think other institutions do so, like we're constantly learning from each other. So I think this is a really great comment. Thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Diora. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. Clearly, if there's anything for us to take home is to have resilient mindsets, to question ourselves as to whether we are more traditional or innovative. Are you traditional as an individual? Are you traditional as a law firm? Are we traditional as a society? Because disruption is coming every other day, and we need to have the keen mindset. Another really good round of applause for her. She's gotten us thinking, and there's also activity on the online platform, Umbrella. Please do keep the comments coming in. Well, when there's an opportunity, we'll read them out. So we'll go straight into the next panel, which is very closely related. We want to act like lawyers, but think like hackers. And there's no better person to moderate the panel than Kenneth Muhanji, who is a partner at KTA. So I'll invite Kenneth, who will also invite his panel. And Kenneth is specialized in intellectual property, technology law. He's been a lecturer in cyber law for over 7 years. He's the chair of the inaugural East African Law Society Technology and Media Law Committee. He has advised government of Uganda on the integration of ICT. He is engaged with World Bank to support the African Drone Forum's regulatory track. He sits on committees of management of intellectual property. He's also the chair of Digital Infrastructure Cluster of the E-Mobility Task Force under the Ministry of Science. He's been recognized as an intellectual property lawyer 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, and more recently, he was also recognized as the Africa Male Partner of the Year at the 2020 Africa Law Awards. You're very welcome, Kenneth. Please do invite your panelists. I know they are a wealth of great people, and we can't wait to hear from them. I'll bring it.
Good morning. It's very bright where I am. I hope you're also bright wherever you're seated. We had such a nice presentation. Thank you again for introducing the topic that we're going to look at today. I don't know if you can be able to put it up so that we can start. Okay. So this morning, I was tasked with leading a panel and introducing, or really reintroducing, since these are things that we've already been talking about, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and the like. And actually, maybe just to start, before I can introduce the session that we're going to have today, we had a conference in Nairobi about a month ago on arbitration. And at that session, we also discussed ChatGPT. And I don't know how many of you have used this ChatGPT. You know, whenever we talk about these emerging technologies, we look at them that they are coming. But we are here to say that they are here. And there are lawyers that are using them, the practitioners that are using them. So the question isn't whether they are coming or not, but how do we use them to stay relevant? How do we use them to ensure that our practice is as fast-moving as practices in other jurisdictions? So at that particular conference, we had a trial. We did a test where we asked someone to write an arbitral award, and we asked them how long it took. They said, I think it took them about 2 days or 3 days. And so for any of you that, that write arbitral awards, you can tell us how long it takes you to write an arbitration award. But then they put the same set of facts into ChatGPT. Do you know how long it took? Less than a minute to come up with an arbitral award. Now, that should tell you this is where we are as lawyers. We cannot hide from this. And that's why at sessions like these, our role as our job as Uganda Law Society is to inform you that this is where we are, and for you to know and make up your own mind whether you want to be left behind, whether you want to adapt, or whatever it is that you want to do in the age that we're living in. So, we put a scenario here. Let's imagine you have a busy law firm. I hope there's no firm called Kaua Musoke and Company Advocates, but this is a fictitious law firm. Partners are working on a major case, and associates are scrambling to meet deadlines. In the midst of all that chaos, an email comes in from a client. The email said that the client needed to send over some confidential documents, and it also included a link to a secure file sharing file. One of the associates clicks on the link and uploads the document. A few days later, that same associate receives another email from a client, and this time the email said the client has been hacked and that confidential documents had been stolen. The law firm, of course, is devastated, and they had to notify their clients that the data had been compromised. Now, that was an attack on that particular law firm. For some of you, you receive links in your emails. Do you just click them, especially if it's telling you there's a payment that you have received? And now there's a lot more, because I think somehow, since all our websites really, I think, come from either have same servers, so we have people that get information, get email addresses online. And you find that they'll send you proof of payment, or some of you are receiving emails from people telling you that you have that there's a client of theirs who has inherited $1 million and they want you to file papers or something like that. You just click these links. So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So our panelists, I'll start, and you can join me on stage. One of them is a good friend of mine, Jimmy Haguma. He's a senior superintendent of police. So Jimmy has over 15 years of experience in police. He's the acting commissioner of police in the electronic and countermeasures department, cybersecurity. He's responsible for providing cybersecurity resilience and assurance services in the Uganda Police Force. This includes drafting ICT policies, reviewing their policies, and sensitizing the public, such as yourselves, on areas of cybersecurity. Okay, thank you. Second is Henry Kevin Wava. Henry is the Executive Business Strategy Development and Managing Director at Sunbelt Holdings, but this morning he's joining us in his capacity as the Vice President of FITSPA. FITSPA is an association that brings together all financial technology companies in Uganda. And so he has over 25 years experience. Before Sunbelt Holdings, he was at Stanbic Bank. He also spent time with JP Morgan, SunTrust Bank, Wells Fargo, and I've just introduced as a vice chair and board member of FITSPA. We also have Dr. Annabella Abinka. Dr. Annabella Abinka is someone I respect. She's a researcher and lecturer of information systems and technology. She's a board member of NITA, the National Information Technology Authority of Uganda. And she's the deputy chairperson of the National Research and Innovations Program at the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. She holds a PhD in the Netherlands Masters, I think, in Public Health from Stellenbosch University, and also Master of Science from Makerere University in Computer Science. We also work together with Dr. Annabella on the NISP initiative at the Ministry of ICT. Then we have Doreen Agaba Munanuche, who is from Stanbic Bank. She's a seasoned cybersecurity and technology risk management professional with experience of over 15 years. She has a Bachelor of Computer Science from Makerere University, CISA, cybersecurity, transaction processing risk. She has a wealth of experience in cybersecurity. Please join us. And before we start our panel, I also wanted to introduce Mr. Patrick Onen Zaga, who is from the Deposit Protection Fund. This is one of our partners. And before we start the panel, we felt that he would introduce what the Deposit Protection Fund does, and then we can get right into the topic. So Mr. Patrick Onen, wherever you are, if you wouldn't mind just coming and giving us a few remarks before we can start the panel. Thank you, guys. I really hope you're going to enjoy this one. Patrick.
Thank you very much, moderator. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Ezaga, as mentioned, and I stand before you in the capacity of the CEO of the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. Otherwise, I am the Director of Communications. My CEO is currently out of the country, and I was requested to sit in, once in a while, you get a chance to sit on those seats. First of all, it's a pleasure to be among you. I'll be very brief, don't worry. Pleasure because when I was growing up, I was told there are three people you must always tell the truth to. Number one is your mother. Number two is your doctor. And last but not least, your lawyer. If you want to avoid jail, tell these three people the truth. I don't know why they didn't mention your wife or your husband in it, but that's for another day. When I was growing up as well, it was every boy's interest that in terms of profession, we all wanted to be pilots. Along the way, I thought I should also become a lawyer. But then that interest was maliciously killed by a career as master. And I ended up in communications. The good thing about this is lawyers and comms people, actually lawyers are very good communicators already. You want to win a case, you must communicate, isn't it? So it feels good to be with you. And as the Deposit Protection Fund, I thought I should share very briefly where we come from and what we have done. In terms of a snapshot, I'll jump slides that are not necessary. For instance, the presentation outline, if you may move on. Can I use this? Where do I point? Oh, you're at the back. All right, next, in the interest of time, just go to the next one. By way of a background, ladies and gentlemen, we'll come from the perspective that you don't take it for granted that everyone knows. DPF is a government agency that previously was under the Bank of Uganda, but is now a standalone. And we also engage with you as lawyers because you shape opinion, you interact with depositors, they come to you, and there's nothing worse than a client coming to you and you do not have information. So one of our primary mandates is to create awareness, and we thought this would be a very good platform to come to you. By way of a background, just to enable you understand where deposit insurance comes from. Primarily, deposit insurance as a concept was established targeting the vulnerable people in the community, the uninformed depositors down there, what you call the bottom of the pyramid, for the simple reason that should a financial institution collapse, the net impact on that kind of person is much higher than probably you and me in this room. So following the 2007-08 financial crisis, confidence in the financial sector plummeted so badly that many financial institutions went down the road, and some have never come back. And therefore, this whole concept of deposit insurance then gained momentum globally with the intention that we should contribute to the financial sector stability, because a stable financial sector translates into a stable economy. It translates into public confidence. I just want to share with you what public confidence does if we move on. Many years back, in one case, there was a bank called Northern Rock, and information spread that this bank was not doing well. And I want to show you what happened in that bank. Next, please. So this is what happens when you have uncertainty in the financial system. One simple misinformation, and the picture on the right you could see were clients the next morning. Imagine you're the general manager of that bank. You're on your way to work, and you wake up and find that kind of crowd in front of you. Everybody wants to take their money out. Why? Because they got information, something is amiss about the institution. Recently, we've heard of some banks, Silicon Valley and the rest in the US, that had to go down, but deposit insurance system of the US, which is called FDIC, came in handy and was able to prevent those kind of shocks. In terms of deposit insurance, we operate at three levels. At the international level, we have what you call the International Association of Deposit Insurers. Now, this is the body corporate that sets standards for management of the industry. And as a result of that interaction, we now have 95 members across the globe, 12 associates, and 7 partners. As I mentioned, I'll give you snapshots so that we move quickly, but this presentation will be shared with you. You need to add this in your archives for your knowledge sharing. So at the international level, we have the International Association of Deposit Insurers. When you come down, at the Africa region level, I am pleased to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that Uganda is one of the 12 member countries of the ARC, as we abbreviate it. And like Uganda has always excelled in being a first, the CEO of DPF, Dr. Julia Oyet, is currently the first female chairperson of the Africa Regional Committee. Since I started, I've not had a clap. How much does it? I mean, a Ugandan lady is up there. As I speak, she's in the meeting in Senegal, delivering her first officiation as the first chairperson. So Africa Regional Committee, by its name and nature, is a block for the African countries. IAD is broken down into regional blocks, which are defined by the geographic locations. And as a result of that, this is a platform that brings together the deposit insurance systems across Africa in order for us to discuss issues that are specific to us. Going a little further down and coming back home, as I mentioned, the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda was established by law. The Financial Institutions Act 2014, as amended in 2016, established it. And briefly, I said it started off as a unit under the central bank, but because of the unique nature of the functions that it executes, and because of the global movements towards deposit insurance, the law was amended, thereby establishing the fund as a separate legal entity to serve that special sector in the economy. Our vision, mission, and values, I think they're all around in the hall. I don't have to emphasize so much, but other than that, I just want to emphasize that in terms of values, we focus on an abbreviation called rights, respect, integrity, transparency, and excellence. The strategic objectives, for information purposes, they are on the screen, but just to say that from 2016-2017, when the fund became a standalone, we have been trying to grow the fund, and soon you'll see why this is really the target. The resource base of the fund has to keep advancing so that our capability to protect all depositors in the country is enhanced. So some of these are really just for purposes of sharing. In terms of functions, we have 3 major functions. First and most obvious is the fact that the fund was established to be able to pay off depositors in the event, and the unfortunate event that a financial institution went under. Secondly, should that happen at the behest of the central bank, the Deposit Protection Fund can be appointed as a liquidator to manage those processes and any other duties that the law enshrines on us. So we primarily want to ensure that, one, depositors are made aware that their deposits are protected. And secondly, should anything happen, we should be able to pay you very fast in order to avoid any discomfort in the sector. The corporate governance structure is the standard one. As a government agency, we are run by a board of directors constituted of 7 people. Representation is from across the board, and this board is appointed by the Minister of Finance. Currently, the board has some legal representation as well, as you'll see. The board of directors is currently chaired by Mr. Patrick Kagoro, who is at the center of this. We have Madame Roy Nambogo, who is a lawyer like yourselves. We have Madame Susan Kanyemibwa, the Secretary Bank of Uganda. We have Mr. John Berohanga from the Ministry of Finance, he's a commissioner. We have Wilbred Owor, who is the Executive Director, Uganda Bankers Association. And we have Dr. Andrew Barra, he's from the public, and Mr. Emmanuel Kalema. So these are the previous team of eminent leaders. In terms of leadership, the executive committee of the fund is constituted by the people you see there. That's the senior management. I will specifically speak to the one you all know. Extreme left are the powerful ladies, and below there is one of your members, Madame Angela, who I think is here. Madame, could you? Yeah, she's there. She's the board secretary, and she's part of the senior management of the institution. Moving on quickly, let me just wrap up and say that in terms of membership, somebody may be wondering, but where does the fund get its money from? The long and short of this story is that all financial institutions regulated by the central bank, and these include commercial banks, credit institutions, and MDIs, microfinance deposit-taking institutions. These are the institutions that we call the contributing institutions. Currently, we have 33 of them in the country, with 25 commercial banks, and then credit institutions and MDIs for each a piece. The protected limit is 10 million. And the first question we usually get is, but why 10 million? What if I have more than 10 million? Obviously. I mean, it's, as I started off, deposit insurance focuses on the bottom of the pyramid, the less sophisticated. But I want to assure you that at 10 million shillings, we cover up to 98% of all depositors in this country. Current depositors are about 22 million or so. 98% are covered with 10 million. In that 98%, 95% of Ugandans have 3 million shillings and less. If you think I'm lying, check your balance in the bank now. We do a quick survey. Majority of Ugandans hardly have 1 million shillings in their accounts. So at 10 million, the majority are covered. Now, for the rest of you who fall in the category of 2%, you have more than 10 million. The law requires that you're taken care of post the liquidation process. You know that when a financial institution goes under, a liquidator is appointed, and at the end of that exercise, whatever proceeds are recovered, that is where the 2% are taken care of. So you have 20 million, DPF pays you 10, the other 10 you receive it at the end of a liquidation process. We expect that nobody should make losses. In terms of our revenue sources, there are primarily 2 sources of revenue. First is the premiums. As I mentioned, the 33 contributing institutions make contributions to the fund, and that is what we derive the basis of resources from at a rate of about 0.2% per annum. And then, of course, in terms of investment, the law requires that to grow the fund, we invest in risk-free, almost zero-rated risk investments. And in this economy, government treasury bills and bonds is the best way to do it. We're doing our best. We're doing our best to ensure that we get out to the public out there, and as a result of that, we do quite a bit of public awareness, stakeholder engagement. So when we received the request as the fund to support DPF, we came on running for the fact that, as I mentioned, you are shapers of opinion. You interact with your clients across the divide, sophisticated, non-sophisticated, and whatever it is. And we don't take it for granted that everybody knows, because knowledge, like they say, life is a permanent school. We learn every day, and we want to presuppose that even as I speak, there are people who are hearing about DPF for the very first time. So awareness creation is part of it. We do quite a bit, and we are increasing that to ensure that the awareness increases. To help us also have impact in the community, we do a bit of corporate social responsibility. I don't need to go into the details. The pictures speak for themselves. But going forward, as I mentioned, we have about 5 issues we want to focus on. Public awareness comes top. But we also like to engage you, the lawyers, in terms of a review of our regulatory framework, because we would like the fund to grow, but there are certain legalese issues that need adjustments. We want to build a home, automation, and capacity building comes up there. So as a way of summarizing, let me just skip this slide and say this, that ultimately, for us as the fund, we would like to encourage you, first and foremost, get to know about your financial institution. In case it is going under, you guys in this room have capacity to be able to receive that information. You're different from my uncle and my auntie in the village who cannot understand the financial statement. So you're expected to be able to know that. Also know that you as a depositor, you do not pay the premium. It is the institution that makes the payments. So nobody should come to you and saying, we are deducting this money for DPF. That doesn't happen. We also deal with institutions that are regulated by the central bank. It is also very important for you, my dear ladies and gentlemen, that in this sector of called finance, it is very volatile. Any small rumor can take a bank down. Speaking of cyber issues, you all know what happened to a bank in a neighboring country, which collapsed because of just one tweet. I think it was in Kenya. Chase Bank, isn't it? Chase Bank went down because of Twitter. So sometimes also be careful how you name your businesses. Chase Bank was chased out of the industry.
Patrick, if you can conclude so that we can...
The conclusion is very simple. Update your records with your financial institutions. The information is on the slide, and I trust that this will be shared with all of you. I submit, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Patrick. We'll get straight to the panel, but I must apologize. I missed one panelist. That was Wilbred Owor, who is represented, I'm told, by Brian Kalule, who is the chair of the legal committee of Uganda Bankers Association. Brian is also a partner at AF Mpanga Advocates, where he heads the technology, media, and telecoms practice and co-heads the banking and finance practice. Okay, so we shall start with who I would say perhaps would be the most senior on the panel, Professor Dr. Annabella Habinka from NITA, to just introduce to us. Doctor, what do you think are the key, or not actually what you think, what are the key regulatory frameworks and compliance measures in Uganda that are designed to address cybersecurity threats? We gave that introduction especially for law firms. Can you take us through what measures you feel NITA has in place to help us as lawyers and as a public to be able to address cybersecurity?
Yes, thank you very much, Kenneth. As NITA Uganda, we are one of the agencies that fall under the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. And so in light with cybersecurity, we came up with a number of laws and regulations that help us structure the way we do things and different frameworks that guide us throughout this whole process. We have about 5 key laws that guide us. One of them is the NITA Uganda law that puts us into act and gives us that mandate to be able to manage and handle cybersecurity. Amongst the others, we have 6 key objectives, and one of them I would want to pick up on is handling issues of cybersecurity and handling issues of digital forensics and so on and so forth. The other is the Electronics Transaction Act of 2011. We also have the Electronic Signatures Act 2011, the Computer Misuse Act 2011, the Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019. These are the major 5 laws that we do have, and about corresponding 8 or so regulations that break them down in detail and explain the SOPs, including the Act's regulations, all the way of e-governance, the data bank regulations, the data protection and privacy regulations, and also those that correspond to what we do have. Several standards and guidelines are equally put up as well, and in that we have the standards of the structured cabling in 2013 that guide us on where do we put the road network, because we run the national backbone infrastructure and we have the big picture of where we are going to. We have the National information security framework. And this gives us the overall guidance of what do we do, where do we start from, even when we are doing any assessments, be it of private sector, be it of government sector. We provide several guidelines. Over 72 broken down items are considered when one is doing a forensic audit, a cybersecurity audit, and we provide a lot of guidance to the entire nation, the MDS priority, but also the banks and several other partners and businesses within the ecosystem as a country.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And actually, since we're looking at government entities, perhaps now we'll go to Uganda Police. Doctor has given us really an overview of the laws and framework that we have in Uganda that are looking at cybersecurity. But could you tell us what could be some of the challenges that you face as Uganda Police in investigating offenses relating to cybercrime? Have you, how many of these offenses actually there? Are there any? Do people report these things? Were they happening?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, moderator, and ladies and
Sorry,
gentlemen.
Jimmy, if I may, let's just to guide the panel, let each question perhaps be a minute and a half, since we have several questions to be able to get through, and then we have a very engaging discussion.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank
Jimmy.
you so much, Kenneth. Yeah, truly speaking, if you look at the number of cases, if we refer to the report, the last report, we had about 268, which gave us an exponential of about 10.1%. And in that, there was a loss occasioning to about 16 billion, of which about 15 million was recovered. So if we look at this, it's a very huge loss, and definitely the challenges are there. The first of all is we are dealing with borderless crime, a crime without jurisdiction in this instance. And the practicality of it in terms of collection of evidence from other countries. First and foremost, if you don't have treaties with some of these countries, then it becomes very difficult. If it's not an offense in their own country, then it will not amount to the same. The other reality of fact is that technology is evolving every single day. We're no longer speaking about crime being committed from a single scene. We're talking of multiple scenes. We're talking of volatile evidence. And now the key word, we're talking of content that goes viral. The last I could talk about in the last minute is maybe we have what we call increased anonymity, what we call identity thefts and masking of identity. So these now require extra forensic tools, not just a traditional, but online forensic tool, live forensic tools. And so you find that this also poses a big challenge to the type of work that we have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Now, moving on actually to the banking sector. We've been looking at cybercrime. The gentleman from DPF also highlighted how cybersecurity led to the closure of a bank in Kenya. And of course, we've also been reading in the press that there are a number of banks that have been hacked. There's money that has gone missing. I'm not sure if some of you have been handling some of these matters. But Brian Kalule from Uganda Bankers Association, could you take, is this a real threat for the banking sector, these things that you're facing in the banking sector? And what measures do you feel can help not just banks, but also the lawyers that are in this room to be able to understand cybersecurity and to be cyber resilient? I think that's the word in the financial sector.
Thanks, and good morning. As you rightly mentioned, I represent Wilbrod, so I'm really speaking as a banker. But mine is a reported speech, so I'll take credit for the good points. The bad points, you blame them on Wilbrod. But just for clarity, do you mean the threats in the banking sector, the specific threats or challenges generally?
Well, you can discuss both, just threats briefly, and then the challenges as well, and how you feel the banking sector can be able to build resilience, or really anything you can discuss.
Okay, so I think the biggest threat is really phishing. So the example you gave in your demonstration, it's the biggest threat to the bankers, where somebody sends an email, a link, and they ask you to download it, or so it's a way they use to steal sensitive information from the banks. It's the biggest threat. And then obviously the second to that is what we call fraud and identity theft. It's been around for years, but I think with the evolution of digital banking, now there are new ways of stealing identity through the digital channels. I think those are the major threats. Perhaps I can add employee risk. Usually when there are these hastes, you hear people talk of an internal job. So that's also one other risk. Probably closely related to that is customer indifference. So some people never really bother about security of their devices. They log into an account, a digital account, and then forget to log out, and then share a device with a third party. And so that can be a breeding ground for cyber incidences. But speaking of the challenges generally, I think the first has been inadequate resources. I'm informed that traditionally banks allocated very little of their budgets to the cyber risk. But I'm told that is changing, and I think I read the other day there's a bank that dedicated 5% of its budget to purely cyber security incidences. The second risk is a lack of awareness. Again, cyber security and cyber incidents is a topic that's enjoyed by the experts. The people on this panel. But to the other people, it's a purely intellectual concept, and they really don't care. And there's also a stigma attached to it. And the bankers will tell you if one bank faces an incident, they never report it because of the fear of the stigma. They think that if they report it, then they will lose the customer trust, and then a run on the bank is probable. To use the example that was given there by the presenter that left. So then I think after COVID, another challenge has been what we call BOD, bring your own devices. So you see a number of banking systems and person's emails are downloaded onto personal devices. And people move with these freely. They don't really take care to safeguard them. And in that way, the banking electronic systems can be compromised. And then I think lastly is the evolving threats. The way the bankers have handled this has been to play defense. They are reactive. But anybody who has played sport will tell you that it's a very unfavorable position to be in when you're just playing defense. So at one point you let in a goal. So perhaps and when you talk of measures, one thing should be to try to play offense and do security audits, anticipate risks, do tests to test resilience and robustness of these systems. Yeah. So I think in a nutshell, those are the biggest challenges we face.
Brian, thank you very much for that. And actually, just if I can now come to Doreen, who is from Stanbic Bank, who is a member of Uganda Bankers Association, and thankfully, Doreen is here this morning to just give us real insight into how these attacks actually manifested. And I think you had something small, which I hope the team at the back can be able to put for us, the presentation, an image that Doreen had given to us. But if you can tell us, can you elaborate on some, can you tell us some of these methods? How do hackers actually hack banks like Stanbic? If you have been hacked as well, can you share with us some of your background on this?
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. So in line with the banking industry, of course, all of us are people, and the system comes with people that support it, comes with processes, comes with technology, comes with processes that are used in the different activities that are done. So in that way, at different levels, there are those different risks. He has already alluded to the risks that happen at the people level, and then there are risks that happen at system level, and then there are risks that happen at the process level. And then there are physical risks where somebody actually carries out a CPU from the banking hall, or even brings a USB that is infected and plugs it into your system, and malware is downloaded onto your machine. So quickly, I'll just...
You can stand there if you like.
Thank you. All right. So I'll just take you through how the kill chain happens. So,
Doreen, if you can remember that we are lawyers, and for most of us, math was so bad, and sometimes we may also, this. So if you can break it down for us, if you're talking about kill switch or these things, what do they mean?
Okay, so the kill chain is really how you get infected as a company, as an individual. And we've already alluded to social engineering. So what happens is that there's information gathering that does happen at first front.
Take the mic.
Social engineer. So what happens is that there's social engineering that happens at the first front. Information is gathered. Many of us share information through the phones, on mail, Twitter, Facebook, and a lot of our information is out there in the public. Everybody knows Doreen is the head of this, manages this, database administrator. So all that information is out there in the public. So people go there and harvest it, and those are the fraudsters. So they harvest that information and come up with a target group that can then be used to send to attack emails. So they will craft an email that will attempt to lure you to cooperate. And this is based on our human deficiencies or nature. Because we want to know so much, we want cheap things. So everyone who receives an email of a free flight to Dubai, we will all quickly click on it. I don't know who will not, but many of us will fall prey to that. So that will be sent to you, and because of that attempt, you will attempt to click. And once you click, malware will then be downloaded onto your machine, and then the fraudsters will connect to what they call their command center. So the command center is there where they now can now control and then do lateral movement from your machine to now the network around you, and are able to now explore devices that are vulnerable, and then pick data that is susceptible, or information, card information, your contracts that are on mail or on different machines, and they're able to harvest it. And of course, the intent is really to either sell that information or even cause a fraud where money can be extorted from the environment. So imagine 100 of us received an email, information of 100 of us received an email that has been harvested from Facebook, internet. Usually what happens is that about 25 of us will open that email, and inevitably 10 of us will open the attachment. So usually the problem is not opening the email, because you want to know what is in the email, but where you go further to download the attachment or click the link to provide information, that's where you get held up, and then malware is installed onto your machine. So that's how really the kill chain happens. Thank you.
Okay. Now, for those of you listening, we have the banking sector, and the banking sector is now complemented by the financial technology sector. So really, there isn't much difference, because all of these people are dealing with money. But the banking sector, of course, we know is one that has been here for eons. But then now we have financial technology that has come in. And so I wanted Henry to tell us, is this the same thing that's happening with MTN mobile money, Airtel mobile money, Safe Border Pay, all these payment companies that we now have that are operating in Uganda? Are these risks the same?
Thank you, Kenneth, and everybody. Mine is very quick one. Sitting at FITSPA, where we're a financial technology association representing over 190 fintechs, mostly across the various sectors, from finance, insurance, agriculture, and many others. One of the biggest issue we are having at the moment is governance. And as you know, with the National Payment Act that came up, we are all interconnected. So all these services that are being offered on technology are facing the biggest problem. For us even to get a license at Bank of Uganda, we need to fulfill the cyber security risk framework. And one of the things at FITSPA we are doing is collaboration through our partners with the Melinda Gates Foundation, ABI, FSD, Bank of Uganda, the government of Uganda, NITA. I have some of the people here. We are collaborating in understanding the risk factors that are in front of us. One of the biggest issues and the threats is the fact that we're interconnected on mobile phone, on the wallets, agency banking, many other platforms. So not knowing what you have on your platform and what you have access to might end up being compromised in certain situations. So, for example, across sectors during the COVID period, you would find that in the hospitality sector, everybody went online. Now the question is, are all these online stores genuine, authentic? And my colleague here, Jimmy, at the police, I think you have scam online stores. You get a link on your WhatsApp group. You click on it. You say, oh, there are goods and services that you can immediately access to and will deliver to you. And yet it's a spam. You enter in your credentials, you enter your information, you're exposed. So these are some of the things that we're working with at FITSPA to try and address and see how we can contribute to the financial inclusion of all the people that are outside the financial service sector. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Henry. Maybe since you did mention NITA, I'll go back to Doctor. Doctor, you spoke about frameworks before. You spoke about, first of all, the laws, of course, that we have in the cyber security space, but then you also mentioned frameworks. Could you just introduce to us the National Information Security Framework and how does that work, especially in responding to cybersecurity?
Wonderful. Yes, we do have the National Information Security Framework, and this one has 4 key elements that we do handle. One of them is the security governance arm, the information security arm that helps us in classifying the different issues of security, the personal security as well as the physical security. We also have another one that focuses on what are the general issues. And this one has a whole set of guidelines, implementation guidelines that are able to guide anyone. It's online, it's free, just download it. We had to come up with this structure, this framework, to help in guiding any ICT officers, any information security officers that would want to carry out an assessment, a guidance to be able to provide evidence to management on what are these key core issues that matter. Where do we need to tighten? Where are the loose ends? And so that's what guided us in coming up with this key core framework.
Thank you, Doctor. And how do you know, for most of us as lawyers, we interface with many government departments. URSB, for those of you that are filing company documents, you interface with immigration, with the judiciary, which recently introduced ICMIS. Are these entities secure? We're talking about cybersecurity for lawyers, but even for these regulatory agencies that we interface with, do we have a risk that our personal data perhaps will be compromised? How does NITA handle that aspect of advising government and these institutions in making sure that they're cybersecurity resilient?
Yes, thank you very much. True, they are very secure. We do host them within the cloud. That is, actually, we have an assurance of 99.98 security for all the platforms. We've moved all the way to the 3rd tier, and we're actually at the best level within Africa. Check your rankings. So that gives us high levels of assurance of this information. So what kind of support do we do in handling this? We carry out continuous information security audits. We handle lots of configuration reviews, product assessments, network security audits, application audits, malware cleanup services, training, IS policy development, infrastructure audits, and all these are services that we provide to the MDAs as well as our supportive key core infrastructure partners within the ecosystem.
Very good. Jimmy, as lawyers, how can we protect our law firms? Can you give us really any tips, especially from the Uganda police, from the cases that you've investigated? How can we, as lawyers, protect our law firms and our clients from liability in the event that there's a crime that someone is trying to perpetrate either in our practices or for our clients as well?
Thank you so much, Kenneth. And just speaking from what Doctor has spoken about, in a world where we are dealing with span of multiple jurisdiction, complaints coming from various centers. I think the first thing is to build platforms for confidence sharing of information, because one thing we know for a fact that if a chain is as strong as its weakest link, and therefore if you have consolidated yourself but the people you're collaborating with have not consolidated themselves, then actually they would be the first hit. So I would, and thanks to the Uganda Law Society, if we build collaborative efforts of sharing information in confidence, this capability of sharing information definitely must be premised on the data protection and privacy protocols, but also more so confirming to the fact that if as a firm we are complying to some of the standards, ISO 27001 of information security, and the frameworks that have been put in. The other one is, like with police, we are not dealing with this alone. We've actually built now synergy with the computer emergency response teams at the different MDAs, but also come up with what we call the National Information Security Advisory Group, because we appreciate the fact that threats are a moving target. Today, as Doctor was presenting, Diora, that the new technology in a few months will be overturned. I was looking at a report by Cisco saying that by 2023, IoT devices will be 3 times more than the population. And so also investing heavily in digital forensics. We could not, for example, you may not buy it as one law firm, but as a body, can we go in and invest in digital forensics? Because it will help us to unmask, to help us to create credible digital signatures that are acceptable. The best rule of evidence, section 30, talks about how best you can adduce evidence. If we have digitally sound and forensic sound evidence, it will help us a lot. Probably the last I would take away is cooperation in terms of international cooperation. We have seen things like the General Data Protection Regulation. One of the rights people are enjoying in Europe, I've seen in Argentina, Article 17, the right to be forgotten. How much more do we enjoy it? How much content that has been repealed or you have been acquitted, but it still remains online. And this is something beyond just their own police, because we are in a digital globe. So if we ratify some of these conventions, and I would appeal to us to join the efforts that we should, first of all, be compliant with the Malabo Convention, even before we go to the Budapest Convention, because these will actually sanitize the environment. Otherwise, if we leave it all to law enforcement, it's not going to be that easy, because you find that we are dealing with complex and very volatile particular cases. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And I think since we're still now looking at the private sector, before I move to Brian, where I will change the discussion a little now to speak to you in your capacity, not as Wilbrod, but as Brian. But Henry, if you're looking for lawyers that would be able to advise you in aspects of cybersecurity, could you share with our audience, with the Uganda Law Society and the members here, what would you look out for in a lawyer who you'd want to represent you either in your company and in the association as well?
Thank you, Kenneth. That's a very nice question. One of the biggest challenges we have at FITSPA, and as we're incubating the next unicorns in our country, one of the biggest issues we have is governance. As technology is being developed and all these risk frameworks are being implemented and are demanded of us as from the regulators and also the investors, as we are interconnected to the world, one of the biggest, and I think it's the most critical, is where the Uganda Law Society comes in. We need lawyers who can not only look at transaction law, but also be able to look at the cyber risk frameworks, also look at the intellectual property, because a lot of these young kids who are developing the new technology, and somehow it can be applied very easily or copied, whereas they are not easily protected. So I see a very big opportunity and services that are needed for us to not only at the incubation, but as they're going through the certification, because most of them are now being certified through Bank of Uganda with the National Payments Act, of course NITA as well, ICT, and then also to partner with the local banks, and you know the banks are heavily regulated. So for you to have your API connect There's a lot of back and forth bureaucracy that you have to go through. So all this is a learning curve. So a lot of the law firms would have an opportunity to guide through this integration and connectivity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And actually, you spoke about laws, and thankfully we have people like Dr. Pamela Tibikira from the Law Reform Commission. We do hope you can work, for example, with the ICT Committee of Uganda Law Society to make sure that our laws are up to date with what's happening in the industry. I think now with the associations that we have FITSPA, you have Uganda Bankers Association, you have associations in telecoms. So all of these we feel can come together to help us come up with laws that will help the industry move forward. And Brian, now coming to you as a legal practitioner, as a lawyer, is cybersecurity something that is of interest to you at AF Mpanga? Can you share with lawyers any tools or anything really that you can share in terms of ensuring that we are all up to speed or up to date in our practices?
Okay, thanks. The thing about lawyers is they thrive in good times and bad times. When the economy is bad, then the insolvency lawyers will thrive. So it's the same thing. Cybersecurity obviously gives an opportunity to lawyers. Usually it's at the tail end when they come in to investigate matters and some of them get litigated. But as I mentioned before, I think the culture is changing. We are now going on offense and we should get involved at an earlier stage, advise our clients whether they have the relevant policies in place, whether they are compliant with their legal obligations. I know NITAU has some cybersecurity, policies. But I think we'll be grateful if those can be turned into substantive laws. And then of course the lawyers will come in handy. Yeah, but it is, we've had advised a number of our bank clients on cybersecurity incidents. Some of them actually, the culprits have been prosecuted. But it's more on the criminal side than on the advisor side, because as I mentioned, usually we come in at the tail end. But yeah, that script is being flipped, and we should get involved at the beginning, and hopefully so that we don't get to the other side. And most lawyers will disagree with me. They say we should always get to the other side and then go to court. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So I think now let's move the discussion to the audience. I'm not sure whether we've been, since there's so many Vitala on us, we don't know how you're paying attention, whether these are things that have been exciting you. But I'm not sure whether we have someone who can help take a few questions from the audience, and then we can have the panel answer, then they can have their parting shots. Are there any questions with you guys? Maybe as the moderator is moving around, picking any questions. For some of us that have built our practices from these emerging areas, what we call emerging areas, we have seen that really as lawyers, as a society, we must be pragmatic in the way we do our practice. And so having a panel talking about cybersecurity, talking about data protection, these are tools you should pick up as lawyers. And now there's no company, there's no entity in Uganda or anywhere in the world that currently that operates without issues regarding cybersecurity, data protection. So as lawyers, I hope you've picked up some of these things and you will be interested in adding them into your practice areas. Are there any questions, or should we assume that we have been very succinct this morning? Okay.
Thank you very much, our panelists. Mine is, there's a new trend, the online loans. There are several companies offering loans online. I know about 2 relatives who have been in trouble with the same, and where they've shared, I think they failed to pay, and they shared some of this information online. We have several regulators here. How is that sector regulated, and how far can these people go? Because some of the stories are not as good as they sound. Private information has been shared from the phone and several other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Joyce.
Thank you very much. Thank you, our panelists. It's been very good, and we've learned quite a lot of stuff. I'm just wondering and asking a question to the NITA person, how safe is our data with NITA? Because like for us at the tribunal, you run our servers directly. Most of the times when we get any glitches in accessing our Wi-Fi ETC, they always refer us back that we're going to check on NITA and see. So it appears that most of the government agencies, you're probably the ones that handle their different servers. So how do you shield us from either cross-server risks in terms of hacking and to ensure that, we are safe? Actually, it gives me so much butterflies to always use my official email, that the email at LCT. So I usually prefer using my personal email because I know at least I have the clean safeguards, in Google. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is this a hand here?
Do I have to stand?
No, you don't.
I was a subject of cybercrime, and I had to go through police. And unfortunately, police couldn't handle the situation. It was one of these links on WhatsApp. And I got a link from a community group that I belong to. It wasn't free trips to Dubai. It was just a link that's coming from the association. So I pressed that. Before I knew it, everybody had my number, and I was sick somewhere in India, and they started asking for money. And that's when I knew people love me, because people sent a lot of money for my, and it was too late. I couldn't do anything. Reported to police. I was sent somewhere to, there's a special department, I think it's your department, up in the hills somewhere. Gave all the details, but it all boiled down to there is nothing much we can do with this WhatsApp because there's no one you can point to. It's like you mentioned, cross-border and all that. So out of the total of cases that the police has handled, it'd be interesting to know how many of that was resolved, given the obstacles you have, right? The other issue I wanted to raise is it's virgin ground, this cybercrime thing. I don't know how our judiciary is well equipped. I don't know if there's anybody from the judiciary. Nalunga, is there anybody from the judiciary? So I don't know how well equipped we are. I don't know any cases that have come up on cybercrime which our judiciary has handled. And given the problems that the police is having, whether when it comes to enforcement, how we're going to, as the bar and the bench, how we're going to make sure that's enforced.
Thank you. I think we can answer these and then maybe take one or two more. I'm seeing two other hands. We could start with, okay, please, Kevin, yes?
Thank you. Question number one, I think it's the online loans. Just to inform you, I don't know if UMRA is in the building or not, the regulator for Microfinance Authority. So yesterday we had at FITSPA, we had a session on what they call the new digital lending online for UMRA, the micro-lending institutions. There's a law that's being enacted. At FITSPA, we have about 26 entities that are lending, but out of the 26, 5 are regulated. The other rest are not regulated. So, yes, it's a very big issue. People are lending without licenses. And one of the findings during our seminar was, once the customers know that you are not licensed, they'll come and take money the first time, second time, third time. They increase the limits until when they know that now I'm not coming back. And then when you go to file your lawsuit, they say, oh, you're not regulated. How did you lend us money? So yes, it's a very big issue. And I think that the Law Society and the lawyers here, this is an opportunity of how do we collaborate through FITSPA with the new digital on-lending line coming up through the microfinance entity that could help address some of these issues.
Thank you very much for that. I think we can also then have Doctor answer the question, or Nita.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you so much for that wonderful, interesting question. Yes, as Nita Uganda would want to give you a lot of assurance because of the huge investment that government has put into our data centers, our disaster recovery centers, our different sites all over that are able to give us that kind of assurance. Huge billions of money go into licenses as a nation. Actually, we are the safest. I told you, nationwide, even Africa-wide, we are ranked. We are still at the top. We are not stopping at it, and we are saying we are going for the best. Our target is to give all our clientele that host all their data in our data banks 100% efficiency. I mentioned we're at 99.998%, and we are working and heading for the best. We have several centers that actually act as one-stop points for any kind of links that come into our data site. And that one-stop center shows all kinds of millions and billions of different attacks that come from all over the world, and they are reported. And we've supported multiple of the MDAs and alert them in real time, whether it's at midnight, with alerts informing them. We've actually blocked billions of them from even going on, because as government, we are the biggest. We have the best infrastructure. I would want to give you all that confidence that whatever is hosted with us, whatever is handled with us, we have capacity, and we are doing our best to ensure that we're at the top of the game and we are able to have secure information for the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Jimmy?
Okay. Thank you so much, my sister. Sorry about the incident that occurred to you. I would only say that WhatsApp was probably the carrier. There's what we call a payload. A payload can be any application and needs to be carried by the executor. So in that instance, it will be very important. Probably I need to address my mind to the case in depth so that we can together see if there was money sent. Then we work together with the telecoms. But now under the dispensation of the National Payment Systems Act, actually the mandate is with Bank of Uganda. I don't know if we have anybody from BOU here, because we are also still in collaboration with them. So at the face value, people will believe that the criminal justice system actually starts and ends at police, but it is not. We still go back to the DPP, we still have to go back to the judiciary, and sometimes that process can be so bogging down. But I would request, if you permit, we can have a conversation on your case. In terms of how many cases, it's really not, they are not good statistics, because most of the cases are still pending. You find that others will require support from other jurisdictions, and it's not possible to come by. So that's why we always emphasize the element of actually a more of a cyber hygiene culture, because if someone had not clicked, if people had not hurried to send money, maybe would have prevented it. But in terms of the due process of investigation, it sometimes will be laborious and hectic. But we believe and hope that with this collaboration, we can quickly be able to support each other. And sometimes we work even closely with NITA and other agencies to see how we can put our energies together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yes, Presh Brian?
Yeah, I just want to speak briefly about the question on whether the judiciary is very well equipped, and just given our experiences from the Uganda Bankers Association. You know, previously we were under the assumption that, the judges know the things, until the industry was hit with a decision on syndicated loans. So again, we decided to be proactive. We realized that you can't just leave it to them. They can come up with surprising decisions. So what we do is every year we choose a topic which is a bit exotic to the, which may be exotic to the judiciary. Then we do a training, take them through it. Last year we did one on syndicated loans, what they are, what's the implication. So I would implore the regulators, I think NITAU, to do something like that from the cyber security angle with the judiciary. I think that would be very helpful.
Yes, Brent, thank you very much for that. And actually, I am happy that we have a number of past presidents in the room, and for all of these, I think they've worked with organizations like the Attorney General's Alliance to train the judiciary. So I've conducted a few trainings with them to talk about areas of cybersecurity, handling electronic evidence, and things of the sort. So I think it's really an ongoing discussion to be able to bring all our judicial officers up to speed with what's happening in the market. But we need to close this panel. I'm sorry, I think there were a few more questions, but perhaps if we could be able to write those and then have them answered later on. I do apologize because of the time. I'll just have each of the panelists in 30 seconds. If you could just share a parting remark, something that they will remember you for as you start on the panel today. And please remember, you're speaking to lawyers. We can start with Doreen here, then Doctor, and then we end with Brian at the end.
Thank you very much. Former Director FBI Miller says there are two types of companies, one that has already been hacked and one that is yet to be hacked. I don't know how many have been hacked yet. So you're fertile ground. You're fertile ground for hacking. So because of that, one of your greatest weapon or your strongest defense is the human, and we call it the human firewall. Please train your people because they're the ones clicking on the links that download the malware. Train your people, provide the awareness that they need, and create the systems that will support them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and from NITA Uganda, we celebrate together with the worldwide cybersecurity initiatives in the month of October. October is soon, and it's a month when we carry out lots of awareness in all different firms, and I've taken note we need special training for the judiciary fraternity. Come October, look around all the billboards and you'll be able to pick up on several nuggets that NITA does invest in and support all the different initiatives in ensuring that we are very secure, we are very aware, and very sensitized on the way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will not differ from them and only say one word, 2 or 3 from Stefan Naponi, who won the Chief Security Officer. He says it takes 20 years to build a reputation, but a few minutes of a breach to rain it down. And so he says that passwords or passphrase are just like your undergarments. Change them regularly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, mine is business today lives in a very interconnected digital ecosystem, and the way we are going to approach it tomorrow requires us to not work individually, but to work collaboratively across all sectors. Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, I think since I'm speaking to the lawyers, cybersecurity, you shouldn't regard this as an intellectual concept. It's something you should get familiar with. We are getting on the bandwagon of going digital, but we should remember that there are risks, and we should be appreciative of them, the cybersecurity risks. Embrace them because you can't say that I won't go digital because that's where the world is going, otherwise you'll be left behind. But with progress comes a great risk, and just make sure to appreciate the risk. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Brian. Guys, this has been such a wonderful discussion. I will end with just reminding you that the leadership of Uganda Law Society gave us clusters where we discuss topics like these and more. I think we have a banking cluster, intellectual property cluster. We also have an ICT cluster committee, which I chair, together with Lady Helen from Innovation Village and Rachel. I don't know if they're here. If you'd like to join, please do. We'll discuss many of these things, and we make sure that as a bar, we are at the same level or even better than other jurisdictions that are also facing the same issues. So from myself, from Uganda Law Society, thank you very much to all our panelists. I hope we can give a very big hand clap as we walk to our seats. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful panel. Please, another big round of applause for them. Yes, I've been told to remind you to please take the water on your table. And in case you want to know the geography of this place, you just go downstairs. That's where you could find the good things. So please remember to think like a hacker, as we've heard from our senior council colleagues here. I hope your password is not 1234, or your password is the word password, because you're definitely going to be hacked. So just for formality, we'll have a working tea break. So the ushers are already moving around, asking table by table to go and pick a cup of tea, such that we continue with the panel. So we'll be moving straight into the next panel. But before we do that, I thought we should recognize a few people in our midst, starting with immediate past presidents, Madame Fiona Wall, Madame Ruth Sevatindira. Please, a round of applause for these amazing people, and Mr. Simon Chinove. Our executive council members, wherever you are, we really appreciate. We have Bar Association presidents in our midst from South Sudan, Mr. Berepaj James, and the Bar Association president from Burundi, Mohengezi Jean. Also the vice president of the East Africa Law Society, Mr. Ramadan Abubakar. And our partners, we really, really thank you for putting this together. So I'll go straight ahead to invite past president Fiona Wall, senior counsel, to take us to the next panel. And we'll be moving away from the cyber and now going into navigating farm evolution. But please do feel free to pick a cup of tea if you are dying, and then you can return to your table. We'll maximize a lot of time after this panel for networking and the lunch break. We're trying to save on time such that we can benefit each other more. Madam President.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I recognize all of you in your various capacities. With me, I have eminent panelists that are going to be with us. I'd like to invite I'm seeing some of them are not in the room right now. I think they're picking coffee. I'll start with okay. Diora, are you ready? Okay, so we're going to start with Diora Ziaeva, who's a partner at Denton's New York. She's already been introduced, but just to remind you that she's an adjunct professor of law at Cornell Law School. She's a term member counsel on foreign relations and an adjunct professor of law at Fordham University School of Law. She is a partner at Denton's. So, Diora, you're welcome. I'm shortening their CVs because these people, we would be here all day if we had to go through their CVs. We have Mr. Sim Katende, partner with Katende, Sempewa and Company Advocates. Give him a clap. The largest and one of the oldest law firms in Uganda. He is ranked as one of Uganda's leading transaction lawyers by both chambers and partners, and Guide to World's Leading Lawyers, and FLR 1000, Guide to World's Leading Financial Law Firms. Today he's also going to be sharing insights with us. We also have, I don't know whether past President Sebugenyi is in the house yet. Oh yes, he is. Give him a big hand clap. So past President James Sebugenyi is a partner at SNL Advocate since 1997 up to date. He's a past president of the Uganda Law Society, and right now we have a house because while he was president, he dreamt it up, and while I was president, he constructed it with his team, with a lot of people. Let's give him a big hand clap, and he's still on the project with President Bernard. We now have Shane Gloria Musanase, managing partner at Ivory Advocates. Give her a hand clap as she comes up. 14 years of experience in commercial law, corporate governance, compliance, information technology, family law, and energy and infrastructure. She holds a Master's of Law in International Corporate and Financial Regulation from the University of Warwick. You're welcome, Shan. She's also the immediate past treasurer. Our money was safe in her hands in a COVID year, so I think that's very important. Last but not least is past President Simon Peter Kinove. Give him a big hand clap. He's a past president and certified arbitrator, partner at Otis Advocates, heading the Infrastructure and Construction Department. He's also chairman of the NGO Bureau and Staff Tribunal at Lira University, and he's a member of the Management Committee of the Law Development Center. Welcome with me our eminent panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to conduct the panel from over there. Thank you very much. I'm going to start with SP, as we know him, past President Chinobe. We want you to just tell us in a few minutes how can law firms embrace innovation. Your firm, I think, is about a few years old now, but with fell swoop, you overnight became one of the largest firms we have in the country. And that takes a lot of innovation, a lot of commitment, but I guess a lot of trust in that number of eminent partners coming together. So how can law firms embrace innovations to adapt to disruptive changes? Not necessarily technology, because I think we've overdone that this morning, but how do they utilize new ways of doing things? How do they redefine client service models to remain relevant?
Hello. Morning, everyone. Yes, it's still morning. Glad to be here, and I'm going to try to be as brief as I possibly can. Please prompt me when I hit the 3-minute mark. We have talked about digital innovations, etc. But one of the things I think we need to do as lawyers is not just to talk about the technologies, but to embrace them. I have been to law firms that don't even have computers in this day and era. That is extremely shocking. Most of our clients nowadays, and you ask how Otis has done it, don't want to come to our offices. So you either have to go to them, or you have to find a way of using technology to reach them. We have things like Zoom, we have things like Google Meet, among others. So I would have gone into details on some of the various technological innovations we have undertaken, the softwares that are run in firms, but that has already been spoken about in many other different sessions. So the first aspect would be digitalization of the legal profession of our firms. Ease of access to information has become a challenge for our legal practice. Before were the fountains of knowledge. Now, lo and behold, Google has overtaken us. So how do we remain relevant? And one of the things we have done is we have now started looking for angles that our clients are not able to find on the internet and simplifying that information. The beauty about the current trend of events is simplicity. So how do you use technology to simplify your outlook to be able to give a client a comprehensive brief of what they ought to know or what they ought to do in order to draw work to yourself? Thirdly, of course, there are issues of continuous training on emerging legal trends. The law is not as it was when I started practicing with James. The law was a little bit streamlined. Now it is different. And you can't keep talking about it the same way you talked about it when I started practicing. Things have changed. Not only has the law changed, but there are other specialized elements of law that are coming up that are making it much more difficult for unread or unlearned people to advise. And so you need to not only continuously train, but also find an element of specialty. I have already talked about finding the possibilities of working remotely. Law firm filing systems in this day and era. The first time I had somebody talk about law firm filing systems was when Ruth was talking about a certain application. In my years of practice, I had never heard of a law firm filing system. So you don't know how much you have billed. You don't know if it is enough. You don't know how many hours you're spending on a client. And there is technology that helps you do this. There is a lawyer I will not talk about that appeared in Parliament. We may recall the BOU saga. And the lawyer had billed. And when they told us how much he had billed, we thought it was alarmist. And then they called him to Parliament to justify his bill. I don't know how many of us watched him defend his bill. My friend, if you watched him defend his bill, you will know the value of those firm filing systems and softwares, because he was able to account for every shilling to the penny, by the minute, by the hour. And so we need to embrace some of these things. Lawyers, especially in smaller law firms, work at a loss. Client comes and gives you 20 million. We're always discussing this with other lawyers, and you feel 20 million is so much. 10 years down the line, you're still arguing the same case for 20 million. And it's gone. I think it went in the first 1 year. But the client tells you that's a lot of money. Gave you a lot of money. And you have no way of computing value because you're doing it manually.
We are hitting the 5-minute mark.
We are hitting the 5-minute mark, okay. So, my take home is 1, embrace technology. 2, ease of service delivery. 3, increased hospitality. There are law firms now we are going to where they serve you tea. You enter and they give you tea, even when you have gone to demand for money. Clients want a comfortable place to conduct business. Then there is instilling innovations and technology. I will stop at that and then avail myself.
Thank you so much for utilizing those 5 minutes. Speaking of timesheets and these innovations where we are trying to increase the efficiency of advocates, President Sevgen, you've been part of a law firm that is famous in Uganda for, I think right now it's on its 4th generation, and it's not necessarily organic. It's not like a family law firm. So this has grown over the years, and it's admirable to see. How do you manage and retain talent, President James?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, members of Uganda Law Society, for giving us this opportunity to talk to you. Talent management. As you all realize, to be the best, you need the best talent. And that is easy said than done. An organization's strength lies in the quality of its human resource and the employees it has. We are in the legal services market, and the context within which we're going to talk about this talent management is in that particular aspect. It all begins with setting talent acquisition criteria standards, policies, and like I said, easy said than done. At our firm, one of the things which we have done and which we keep on doing, we attend recruitment, selection, interviewing, and onboarding trainings and seminars on the subject of talent management. And these are available at different seminars and sessions. If you attend the IBA and the Commonwealth Law sessions, if you have attended them, this topic is always given a lot of attention. So there is material to guide you on this particular aspect. You will ask me, what is talent management? And talent management is the strategic process of attracting, developing, engaging, retaining talented individuals within an organization. The times we are in, there are disruptions. There are challenges we are all having. There's record turnover rates, bonuses and salary packs are no longer the solution. People want more. We hear of things like culture ads, things like flex times, etc. There's a global talent shortage. Much as we're very many lawyers, we're realizing that there's a shortage. The other thing is that jobs now require highly technical, specific expertise. And that's not easy to get by. And we tend to look for talent as employers, talent which is with personal and professional values aligned to our values. For each one of your law firms, each one of your organizations, you must have values. You must have a culture. And if you find that there's a mismatch between that culture, then you know that that talent will not be in a position to thrive, and sometimes it's good to let the talent go or to retain it on the basis of culture, values, and the processes which you believe in. And that goes all the way to vision, mission, and objectives of the organization. The landscape we are operating in, Madam Fiona, PP, is these hiring freezes, these layoffs, salary freezes, cancelled bonuses, pay reductions, teleworking, increased employee stress and burnout. Now, these particular things are being addressed by most of us, and I'm not talking about my law firm. These are the things you have to address in order to be in a position to talent manage and retain and maintain good talent. The business arena and landscape is very competitive. We are seeing situations whereby our own in-house lawyers in the different corporate departments are coming up and taking the best talent from the law firms. We take them for secondment and they are retained. And no hard feelings, because then you know that in that particular client, you are now stuck like a bulldozer. Now, let me go to the aspects which are with regards to solutions and the best practices. Like I said, the culture of the firm is very important, and an alignment of that talent to that particular aspect. Relevant training, like Simon has said, giving good feedback. Treatment at the workplace is extremely important. The conducive environment you create will either keep the talent or the talent will move on. I have heard of a young lawyer who is willing to take a salary reduction to go to another place and get half the salary because of the conducive environment and the way they are treated at that particular organization. So that is an indicator about, these are basics, simple things, but they are key items in retaining and keeping talent. Mentoring and coaching opportunities within and outside the organization. Promotion from within policies is another very key item. Talent moves on because they're not guaranteed of promotion from within policies. Culture adds, is there diversity? Is there equity? Is there inclusion? Please quote me properly on that aspect. And remuneration strategies, and then opportunities to do good work. Some of these young lawyers want to be given an opportunity to do good work. I gave a lawyer who has just come from LDC, new recruit, a Supreme Court appeal I'm handling. And I gave it to him, and we've been working on it. And the young man came to me and told me, not how dare you. He said, how come you've given me an opportunity to deal with a Supreme Court matter, which you are handling, which is very sensitive. And I told him, I wanted to make you swim in the deep end without a life jacket, so that one day you will appreciate the opportunity I gave you, and you'll give it to somebody else. I don't know whether I've covered my time. That's what I would talk about talent management.
Thank you so much, Past President James. Speaking of innovations and building business resilience and adaptability, Shane, Ivory Advocates it's been breaking ceilings, being, I think, the first all-female multi-partnered firm that we've had in Uganda. It's 5 years old, but we've seen it winning awards in the Law Society. We've seen it going places. If you go to their website, you'll pay me for this Kalango, Shan. You'll see e-market. They have an e-market for legal services. So what drives your innovation? And it would be very interesting for boutique law firms here to hear from you. How do you find your place when you're sort of a late arriver, and then you have to innovate around your identity?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Is it? Hope we are all well.
People, please respond to our panelists.
It's still good morning. Okay. Thank you, Fiona, for that question. We come from a season where we had COVID and everybody had to reinvent themselves, including lawyers. We were once told we were not essential workers, but now we are. Once again, we thank God for that. So in building resilience and adaptability for law practices, I'll speak from my own experience. Resilience is something that is not outward, it's actually inward. You have to build the people you're working with. You have to create an environment that allows them to grow, to ask questions, to take back client feedback and work backwards to see where you went wrong. There's been a lot of self-reflection in the firm in the last 2 years. Which areas do we want to practice in? What areas do we think we can thrive in? And after we know where we want to go, then we start to build the bridge. We have to first of all understand our business, the clients we're serving, the environment within which we work. What collaborations can we partake in? Which partners in other law firms can we work with who have expertise that you can utilize that you do not yet have in your own firm? You also look at what Chinobe provided, which was innovation and technology. What tools can we develop? I attend a lot of board meetings, so we had to go online completely. For most of them, up to date, we use online services, Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, to help our work get delivered in real time. It has also enabled us to also use the online services like URSP to do the filings. Everything now is being more efficient and businesses are thriving. Having innovation in the firm itself, allowing the young lawyers to comment, to tell us what's going wrong, how we can do it better, giving them a platform to be able to speak. And as James already shared, sharing good work with them, taking them into those boardrooms or those meetings where they would not meet people every day, but now having to sit next to a managing director. For you, it's simple, but for them, it's like, oh, I've been trusted, and they will work, giving talent an opportunity to grow in the firm. And when we look at training, it's also important for us to ask the people we work with where they want to grow, which areas, and then focus the training to grow them in those areas. I remember we used to work in law firms, and first you do general work, but with time, you'd see where people's strengths are and direct that that energy and that zeal into that space and accommodate the train. Now we have a lot of online training, so we also take advantage of those so that somebody can actually build their skill. In terms of access, as lawyers in the firm, we have made it a priority for us to be accessible to our clients through messaging, through phone calls, through emails, but they should know that they can access you, whether it's Christmas, whether it's New Year's, they should be able to reach you so that you can address their challenge. And being vulnerable with these clients, sometimes I practice family law and I've learned that I have to take some of my clients for tea, to sit with them, walk the journey with them. For some lawyers, it's a problem and it's a challenge, but I found that when you allow lawyers to get into the space of their clients, the clients will not only give you their work, they will always recommend your services to somebody else. So allowing them to be open, taking their feedback, and doing better to build that bridge. In terms of managing firms, we have also looked at new management systems. We have segmented into HR, finance, business development, and legal practice. So we have a partner heading each of those, but then we have managers who work in the firm who are not lawyers, and that helps us get our business done. We do the legal services, but we now have somebody who actually runs the firm on the business side. And we find that when we work with non-lawyers, they actually give us good feedback. We've also brought on other partners in fields like energy, in technology, where they come and tell us, this is what's trending, and we see how to apply that for the clients that we serve so that we help their businesses become more efficient. In terms of document filing and records, also bring on board a document system that keeps your record and confidentiality of the client's information. So you have to put in place cybersecurity measures to keep this information confidential. In terms of performance and motivation and appraisals.
1 minute.
All right, I'll be done. The one thing, let me just wind up with this. I think it's important for us to collaborate. We are a small law firm, 5 years old. I'm sitting next to somebody who has worked in a law firm for more than 20 years. I make it my intention to make him my friend after today, because at one point, James will be conflicted, and I pray that he will think about Ivory in that. And then when I'm conflicted, I'll think about Otas. There's a lot of sharing that lawyers can have if you have collaborations. If you recommend work to one another, you will grow. And I think as a young lawyer, I think it's important for the older lawyers to send some work to the law firms, the small law firms. I am campaigning for the young lawyers right now. And yes, because that's the only way we'll have transfer of knowledge, but more importantly, we'll transform our own practices. And at the end of the day, we all can't do the same work at the same time, but we can collaborate, we can form partnerships, and we can do work for different clients at a given point. Last but not least, Fiona, allow me to finish this. When we are dealing with employees and staff, like James intimated, it's important for us to have a conducive environment and allow pep talks, give motivation speeches, team building, and fun activities in the law firm, so that on top of being lawyers, you're still people who have ordinary lives, having the ability to have someone to come to you at any given time with a problem. You will build resilience, because when you have somebody adapt to the changes, COVID showed us that people are lonely. People didn't know what to do with alone time, but when you have somebody, you can pick the phone, call. The person maybe is a secretary, then is a cleaner, but your door is always open. They will work and they will support your firm to grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I allowed the young lawyer a few more minutes because she was speaking for all of you. We want to speak to Sim. Sim passes off as a young lawyer. He even attends young lawyer conferences. You're not allowed to rebut right now. So, coming back to, we've come from a 5-year-old firm. Now we are at a 54-year-old firm. And this farm has reinvented itself every single year. Almost every advocate we know here has had one, especially the senior ones, like past President James, have had one moment or two where they've engaged with cats at a personal level, whether as an intern or in court. And one of the things that is amazing about your firm has been their ability to take their business global. They're rated globally. They also are a family-run business. So how do you adopt international practices in order to keep yourself relevant and be a market leader?
Thank you very much,
And
President.
speak about succession planning while you're at it.
That's good. So, good afternoon, everyone. I want to be sure everybody is awake because I know it's nearly. Should I use hers? Is it fine now? It's good. Okay, so the reason why I'm usually asked to come and give these talks is because, unlike most people, I'm the one who says the most controversial things. Usually they're the ones people don't really want to say or are very uncomfortable saying, and I'm also uncomfortable at times, but because we're in a setting with lawyers, I can say I will be able to speak freely with the hope that whatever is said here remains here and is not used against me. So, they're asking that, I think the topic was about sustained growth, how you've lasted 50 years, and how you're going to keep going. What are the strategies you use for keeping that? So I'm going to only mention two. The first is, you should be very, very greedy. Exactly, controversial, but very long-term greedy. What do I mean? Our farm was started in 1969. We want to be here in 2069. So it means, if I'm looking to keep making money between now and 2069, I should not do anything that jeopardizes my ability to still be working 5 years from now, 10 years from now, etc. Once you've got that as a strategy, that's why we decided we're never joining anything like partisan politics. So whether there's a change in government, whether there's a change in regime, whether there's this official has left, you're still there. If you align yourself to one group, if that group goes, you might go with it. So you understand that strategy. Two, when you're hiring and dealing with people, you appreciate that everybody you meet is potentially going to be a judge 5 or 10 years from now. They're going to be the CEO, they're going to be the company secretary. So work with them knowing, I'm going to meet this person, they're the ones going to give me work tomorrow. So at least you hope that when everybody you work with leaves saying, at least I learned something from them, or at least I worked with them. So you minimize the friction because that's going to be your boss. Same thing. There was a young lady who came to our table there and brought something to be signed. 15 years from now, she'll be a judge. So if you appreciate that, you know I have to work with people in a different way. Now, all of these marketing books tell you about pursuit of excellence, pursuit of what. I think people have given you all of those tools. I have a different view. I think for a law firm to remain successful, you don't have to pursue excellence. You don't even have to pursue any of these technologies. You only have to keep pursuing one thing: relevance. Are you still relevant to your client? Are you still relevant to your market? Are you still relevant to the audience you're speaking to? As long as you keep that, you will remain. Do you think it's by mistake that Cindy has picked on Sheba to fight? She's trying to be relevant. Most of her songs were 5-10 years ago, but she says, if I pick this battle, I will remain relevant. So when she's talking about reinventing yourself, you're reinventing yourself to remain relevant to what your clients want, to remain relevant to what the market is demanding. If you keep doing that, it doesn't matter what change comes, what technology comes, who is hired where, as long as you're always being relevant, you will. So I'll end by just giving a couple of examples. I was actually just talking to past president while we're here. Because we take that long-term approach, you will notice that as a firm, we try to minimize even our comments in the press. If I took a poll in this room and I said in the last week, what are the 2 cases that have been most in the news? You know that case which has come, no divorce without adultery, yeah? It's the one everybody has talked about. Now it's our firm who handled that case. We are the ones who actually got the lady not to get divorced because that was our instruction. But everybody has commented about it, but we haven't. Because our client said, I've been married for 40 years, I don't want a divorce. The other side said, this woman, we should have a divorce because of cruelty. He failed to prove cruelty. The judge ruled and said, you did not prove your ground, therefore, I cannot grant the divorce. Now, even though so many people have come up with different versions, we have not commented because we do not criticize a judge in press, or we do not go. Tomorrow, I might be representing a person who wants a divorce. Shane here knows I don't particularly like handling family divorce matters, but you never know who is coming. So you take a deliberate policy not to do that. We have another client, Airtel. They've given this ruling against them for conscience. Again, we're not commenting. We may disagree with the judge, we may get it set aside, but that policy means I will not get on the wrong side of this judge because tomorrow I will be appearing before them. That is being long-term greedy. And then lastly, they mentioned talking about talent and encouraging people. He gave an example where he said, I think you got a student who had just left law school and asked him to work on a Supreme Court case. We actually, at least speaking personally, I try to do one better. So I did my first IPO nearly 20 years ago. That was DFCU listing. It was at the time the largest IPO. Interestingly, the people I worked with and who did most of the drafting and the heavy lifting were two students who were in third year at the law school. They were not even qualified lawyers. So by the time we trust people like that, I think anybody who has worked with me knows our policy is we give you as much work, we tell you take the responsibility, act as though you are the one who is handling it. That way, most of the people leave when they say, I may not have made as much money, but at least I got the experience. And that is why maybe I'll even make a request to Pamela, where right now we're handling the IPO for Airtel 20 years later, so we're still relevant. But if you can tell Keith that I was actually at a panel, that's why I couldn't take his call, because the CMA was calling me saying he wanted something. But the good part is, because I've got a team of people who are actually doing the work, they have been able to speak to him, and I think the issue has been resolved. So I will end by saying two things. One, be long-term greedy, meaning don't do anything that's going to stop you working for the next 50 years. And two, please ensure you are relevant to what your client does. So if the principle, the strategy is relevance, today the tool might be technology, tomorrow the tool might be talent, the next day it might be this, you will always be able to reinvent yourself and you should be able to last long. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Sim. I think you very much explained your sustainability in the market. And now we're moving from a 54-year-old law firm to the world's oldest, I think, one of the old, no, largest. Yeah, okay, we'll stick to largest law firm. Over 80 countries. They have 200 partners in New York alone, and we're seated with one of them. I think we should clap for ULS for doing this. So, Diora, you've had everything from innovation, sustainability, and you gave a very fantastic keynote in the morning on resilience. When you look at legal work, there's always the tendency, and I think yesterday our keynote speech from Mr. Mvawala was emphasizing the fact that we are oversupplying and government should not, pay for the education of lawyers anymore, because I'll give you the numbers. In my country, we have 12 universities that have law schools, and they release, on average, 1,000 students each year. Our bar school can only take 1,500 at a time, and right now the pass scores are not very high. So that means that maybe we're releasing 600 students in a market, and yet 12,000 graduated. So maybe that's what he meant by oversupply, but there's a problem there, because the actual advocates we have here is about 1 to 18,000 Ugandans. But I know that even in New York, with your 200 partners and probably over 200 law firms, you still feel that business is shrinking for the average traditional lawyer. How does a firm like Denton's reinvent itself and keep itself relevant, but also work with clients in a way that they actually grow business?
Thank you so much, Fiona, for this excellent question, and I'll try to be brief. I think a couple of things that are worth mentioning. Well, one thing is, I think the phenomenon that you mentioned about the supply, right, or oversupply of lawyers is really not, I don't think it's new. I think it's at least 20 or 30 years old, and I think it's not particularly, it's not only something that you can meet in certain jurisdictions. I actually see this and I hear the same kind of comments in the United States, both among the academics or the university professors or university deans, or among the law firms. I hear the same comments from when I do work for my clients in Latin American countries, anywhere from Brazil to Colombia to Mexico. And I hear the same comments in Uzbekistan, Central Asian region, Russia, that there is, of course, a demand to be a lawyer because it's a fashionable thing, as we know. And the number of the schools that provide the law degrees is just growing, right? So we see that in different countries. I think one of the things that we are also realizing is that the newer generation, the Gen Z that I was talking about, they see the law degree as not only the means to necessarily go and practice in a law firm, but as this, sometimes I'm told by my students, like this interdisciplinary training that allows you to think critically. So you don't necessarily need to go to practice law, but it actually gives you an opportunity to try so many different things. So I think the value of legal education, whether it is a common law training or that civil law training, I think it is still valuable, and I think it opens the doors to many things. So maybe I'm more optimistic when it comes to the supply, although I do agree that, and a lot of people do share this concern that maybe there are just too many lawyers, right? But I do feel that because there's so many innovations that are happening, I think our industry and what we do will be changing. So I think the element of critical thinking that is offered in law school, which I think is the key thing that we need to take away from studying law, will become relevant even in the eve of things like ChatGPT or artificial intelligence becoming more and more prevalent and becoming, frankly, more efficient in terms of the getting the work done. But that critical thinking element, I think, hasn't been completely substituted by the artificial intelligence. So I do believe that as long as we approach legal training as something that allows us to be better in assessing, analyzing information, I think there's more room that can grow right from there. With respect to your second point concerning the law firm, I do think that, at least in the firm that I work in, the focus has always been, what do clients want? How do you make sure that you stay relevant? And the idea is to make sure that there is, you address basically clients' needs. For example, just last year we launched Denton's Global Advisors, which is a branch of Denton's that provides consulting services to the firms, because in response to firms' request to have this one-stop shop that resolves issues, anything from like a PR support to understanding certain markets for the clients that are going into different jurisdictions, to, of course, the legal support that is offered in over 80 countries. So I think the relevance point that was mentioned, which I think is really, really important, is kind of staying on top of what clients actually need. And clients really will tell you, like you said, sitting down with the clients and asking them, like, what do you actually need? What would you actually want? Will drive, the way the industry will work. I think as firms proliferate, right, the smaller firms, larger firms, I do still believe that there is a place for both the smaller firms and the bigger firms in the market everywhere in the world, because there are certain industries where I think the smaller law firms are so much better equipped to actually provide the best services to the client versus larger firms and vice versa. So I think the key is working together and see what makes most sense again for the client. So here, these are the few points to answer your question. I hope I didn't miss anything.
No, you did not. There is something that when we get somebody like you, we need to sort of exhaust some of the information. Ladies and gentlemen, Diora is a member of the ICC, International Chamber of Commerce. She is an avid arbitrator, but she's also been counsel in big arbitration proceedings. And yet she's, up for 40 under 40. That's something huge. So how do you, and this is for probably every lawyer here, and now we're moving away from just law firms, but how do you as an individual catapult yourself into other areas of practice, convince your clients to embrace alternative dispute resolution methods, and also excel at negotiation? Because I think to be a very good arbitration lawyer, that's one of the tools you need to have. So just maybe share a bit of your story. I'll add you another 5 minutes for this, because I'm sure that it's very, very relevant to us.
Thank you so much. I think there are a couple of things that come to mind. One is that we see...
And do tell us about the case that you're handling right now, just a little.
Okay, sounds good. I will. So I think a couple of things that I wanted to share. One is that we see the changes in the alternative dispute resolution. We see it in the ways the rules are drafted and revised in light of all the things that are happening around the world. But I think one of the things we have seen in the last 10 years is this emphasis that you said concerning negotiations to introduce things like mediation, right? As mediation, not only as a optional step in the process of dispute resolution, but in some instances, a mandatory step. Some of the rules, some of the big arbitral institutions or regional institutions actually introduce it as one of the necessary steps for the parties to undergo. And in my experience, both doing commercial arbitration and investor-state arbitration, to a different degree, I think mediation can be quite helpful, especially for those parties who are interested in continuing business relationship, right? Of course, in my opinion, it really depends on how good the mediator is, because mediator can really navigate the situation to let you get to, just to settle, or to find the way of bringing the parties closer together as opposed to, being far apart. So I think mediation is quite important, and I think that part is, it was almost codified, right, in a way by Singapore Convention that came out in 2019, demonstrating that there is the interest on behalf of the states, on behalf of the parties, to really introduce conventions that really talk about mediation as a means of dispute resolution. I'm a big proponent of mediation. I think it's, if done right, it's very helpful. In terms of your question concerning the latest cases that I've been involved in and what I see clients prefer, I think it really depends on the jurisdiction that you're in, because in some jurisdictions, clients actually prefer to go to courts because they believe that, okay, courts, I believe in my court system, I want to go to courts, and that's just sort of my conviction. And you can see this among some of the big corporations. And it doesn't really matter which jurisdiction it is in, whether it is in the United States or anywhere else, really. And then there are clients who clearly see the benefit of international arbitration. I think international commercial arbitration specifically, the one that involves corporate entities, is definitely there to stay. I think, as we have seen, institutions are revising the rules to address clients' requests. I think there is a strong push to train judges, because obviously the strong functioning legal system, and specifically the court system, is key, as we've discussed, to the success of international commercial arbitration. I think investor-state arbitration is we have seen in the last years is going through a crisis. It's going through major reforms that are taking place, and the rules are being revised. The approach of the states to investor-state arbitration is changing. So we will see quite a bit of changes in that sphere, right? From like going to one side pro-investor to another side pro-state. Like, how do you actually balance the rights and responsibilities and make the system actually work, not so much for dispute resolution, but really for the way you can collaborate between the investors and actually attracting them to the countries. So I think these are the points that, that are worth mentioning.
Thank you so much. Given the time, I would like to just allow for 2 questions from the audience for our panelists. Some 2 burning questions. Our panelists will be available the rest of the day, they've promised, so you can approach them for personal conversations. Any questions in the audience? I'm sacrificing my question time. Yes. Somebody? Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Fiona, and members of the panel. Francis Tumwesige is my name. I have a comment. I think a question goes to Sim. You've told us about so many things, but I want to talk about the case, the divorce case.
Given our time, do you mind just making it a question, if it's a question?
Okay, as our young lawyers at our level, we have the issue of, I'm a corporate lawyer, how then do I do a divorce case? But now you've just told us, on one hand you're doing a divorce case, on the other hand you're doing
IPO.
Airtel IPO. How do you manage that? Because I must say, sometimes I'd be like, how do I start doing divorce? I'm too busy with these other things. And then second, of course, is the resilience. Whenever people tell me, but you see the country is uncertain, you need to start thinking about getting citizenship in Canada, etc. I'll be telling them, but Katende Sempe was here during Amin, they were here during Kony, they were here during the Bush War, they are here, and we shall be here. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Francis. That's very noteworthy. Another question? Sima, I hope you've taken note. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. So, Sim and any other of my panelists can add to that question, to that answer.
Thank you, Francis, for your question. Can you hear me? And every year the client would buy more land, more cows, and he would come and add a codicil to his will. Then he didn't see the client for 3 years. And he meets the client and tells him, I haven't seen you in 3 years. How is the farm? The man said, look, I sold the farm. I said, you sold that farm? But nobody in our property department, worked on this. And the man said, but I didn't know you did property law. I thought all you did was family law. So the man said, when you are asked that, what kind of law do you practice? The answer is not, I'm a corporate lawyer, I'm a litigation lawyer. The answer is, what kind of lawyer are you looking for? Because if you can't do it, there's somebody in your firm that will do it. So the secret of our success is, I may not like family law. I didn't handle that particular case. It's my partner, Jen Akiteng. But I'm here as the firm. So there's somebody in the firm who can perform in that area. So if you want to be able to do all of these different disciplines, either pick the ones you like and partner with people who are comfortable with the areas you're not comfortable with. Or, as I said, I realize that at least within the Uganda market, clients are still the ones who determine. I may not particularly like litigation, but if my client equity says, I need you to handle this case, I should be willing and able to handle it. That is what I call being relevant. Be relevant to what your client wants. As long as you're continuously relevant, you will not have a problem, whether it is in legal work, even in your social relationships. If you're relevant, if you're continuously relevant to your family, they will keep in touch. If you're not relevant, it may be a while before they call you. So always remain relevant. So that's where that comes. Then you talk about, again, being able to stay that long. It's the same thing. It is simply saying what is relevant. So I'll also help you with one last aspect, and that is talking about getting what the clients want. I think President Fiona talked about, and she also mentioned it, that clients always tell you what they want. So let me give you a free tip. Every client you're talking to, every conversation you have with a client has to answer one of these three questions, preferably all three. One, are you showing him how he can make more money? Are you showing him how he can cut costs, which is still make more money? Are you showing him how he can keep his job or be promoted? If whatever you're discussing covers those three, you will never have an issue keeping a client, and you'll never have an issue growing new clients. And that is where we try to sit. There's a new generation of lawyers, there's a new generation of CEOs, but they'll still come back to a firm which can give them that, that bit of experience and relevance. We will show them something which benefits them. And if you do that, you'll never worry about getting clients. So whether now, whether 5 years from now, the tools may change, but the principle is still the same. Thank you.
I would like to ask my panelists if any of you have something to say as we depart, because we've reached the end.
Parting shots?
Yes. I think we'll give them one parting shot each. I know I have a time crunch, but let them close out, because I think I want to boast that I have the most senior weight here right now. The parting shots are 1 minute each.
Okay. In this era of competitiveness and disruptiveness, if you're to remain relevant in addition to what we have stated, you need to also purpose to create work, create solutions where there seem to be none, and provide that wanted advice that your clients don't even know about.
My parting comments will be utilize your networks and have collaborations with other lawyers and other experts. Always have a learning attitude. We don't know everything. It's better to go in the room and be silent and learn, and be intentional in bridging lawyers, other professionals, other business entities, institutions. Be willing to bridge, be willing to pass on, be willing to give recommendations, and be willing to learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My parting shot is, and I've written it down, so let me be clear on it. Organizations' capabilities reside in their processes and values. The very processes and values define their disabilities when confronted with disruption. And this topic we've been talking about is the disruptions which are happening. If your values are not aligned and your compass and radar and your north is not true, the disruptions will eat you and you will die. Thank you very much.
My parting shot, I guess, will be... Oh, sorry. Is it on? Yes. Can you hear me? Is it on? Yeah, I think this should work. My parting shot is same thing. Everybody... Sorry, let me use this one. My parting shot is simply, in spite of what everybody tells you, in spite of all these stories you hear that, there's competition, there's disruption, there's this technology coming, there is so much opportunity for lawyers. Do not fear, there is still so much money for you to make. Every transaction has another lawyer on the other side. Every person you meet is potentially a client who can give you more money. So do not be afraid of technology, disruption. These firms have come, this firm is bigger than me. We're the biggest firm in Uganda, but compared to Denton's, we're nothing. But we're not worried. We're just saying we picked our lane, we are happy with it. So wherever you are, you can still thrive in your market, you can still make a living, and no matter how many lawyers come out of law school, you will still be able to practice till you're 90. That's my parting shot.
couple of words to just further what you just said and what my colleague said, which I agree with wholeheartedly. I think the focus should be innovation. And what I mean by innovation is investing into talent. I think the new generation is really important. I think having talent really pays off, and investing into talent, listening to what the new generation has to say, how to make sure that they are there to stay. I think it's super important. I also think that innovation is about creating opportunities. And what I mean by creating opportunities is, I think it starts with, I think it even starts in this room. It's being open and exchanging ideas with each other, being open to collaborating with each other, being open to exchange thoughts, to come up with innovative thoughts. And I do think that there is a real power in the collective, right, in the collective consciousness, in the ideas of actually coming up with the most interesting ways to solve the problem in the moment when you actually don't focus on that, but rather focus on the person who is next to you and just exchanging the ideas. It's really remarkable the things that could come out of it. So hopefully you'll utilize that advice during lunch and come up with some interesting ideas.
If you could just step forward for a group photo, just at the front there. I think the camera people have it all set. But thank you for sharing great nuggets of wisdom with us. The camera people, we are good? Yes, I believe they have it. Once again, we thank you for being patient with us and managing the working tea. At least we confirm everyone has had something to eat. And we shall be going for lunch shortly after this. And lunch is in the big tent, as some of you know, those that were here yesterday. Those that are online, you are encouraged to have lunch wherever you are. We shall eat on your behalf, or we'll pass it on. But please do join us at exactly 1:50, because the afternoon session is also a very, very wonderful and exciting one. So do not lose time. But right now, lunch is served. See you at exactly 1:50 in here. Thank you so much.
Get empowered to do more for yourself with Post app. Pay bills, make school fees payments, buy airtime, transfer funds, check your account balance, request for account statements, initiate cardless withdrawals, and lots more. Post app is available for download on Google Play and App Store. Post Bank, empowering you. Post Bank is regulated by the Bank of Uganda. Customer deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund.
Hello, darling.
Hi, Granny.
What did you do this weekend?
Well, on Friday, I went on a science trip with my classmates to Windy to see the gorillas. Then we watched the cup final in London. On Saturday, my friends and I met up to hunt some dragons again. Also, I taught the vacuum cleaner and the TV this new dance everyone's doing. They're really getting into it. And on Sunday, I went to bed watching the world from space. And you? Yes, seriously, Granny.
With Airtel 5G's lightning-fast speeds and seamless connectivity, you won't believe what's next.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution, or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone, or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312-206-400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
Across Uganda, a new dawn in luxury living awakens. Solana Lifestyle and Residences is Uganda's newest, most prestigious and award-winning lifestyle destination, an address for those who dream differently. At Solana, you're close enough to the hustle of the city, but far enough to come home to a sanctuary of smart living. Join a community of like-minded individuals where everything is taken care of and safety and security comes standard, where each community has a clubhouse, play area, pool, and other incredible features. Let an oasis of calm greet you at the end of each day with manicured gardens, pathways, parks, bicycle tracks, and so much more. Whether you're upscaling or settling down, buying a first home or investing,
Solana has it all.
Uganda is now open to the world.
Ennyanja emira agimanyidde olwawo n'omukka gusensebula afumbira ku nku. Wewunya ettagali ng'ono kyerine gy'ayitamu. Weefune ka Starbex gas leero. Gw'owe Kampala ogula Starbex gas tumukutuusako ku bwereere. Bw'oba tolina ssente mu buliwo osobola okusasula ng'okozesa MTN Momo merchant code 315794 oba Airtel 1161 nooti 3 nooti 7 nooti 9743592. Okumanya ekisingako awo kuba ku nooti 7 nooti 6 nooti 18859 oba nooti 7 nooti 6 nooti 1917 nooti 393 nooti 18 nooti. Starbex gas kagas keko.
Kalikumtima and Company Advocates.
I am a legal practitioner, the chief executive partner of Kalikumtima and Company Advocates. It is a one-stop solution center tailored to make a legal difference to our clients. We have the necessary diversity to meet their needs.
Kalikumtima and Company Advocates, translating visions into reality. For more information, visit our website
Faster, fresher, and better than before, we've given our app a makeover. The new Vision Digital Experience is now the Vision Digital Experience. The future of media is here and it's looking bright. Check out the Vision Digital Experience app to have a feel of the fresh look, faster speed and exciting new TV and radio channels and so much more. Download the app on App Store or Google Play Store now. Vision Digital Experience, the future of media.